You through vacation?
I got a good
Okay, sir.
Probably pictures coming.
Go ahead and call the board meeting order June 17th, 2025. Let the record show that all aldermen are present. At this time, Mr. Papania will lead us in the invocation, Mr. Hippie in the pledge.
We bow our heads, please. Lord God in heaven above, we thank you for this great city of Ocean Springs. May we continue to grow and prosper. And during this hurricane season, may we and our neighbors be spared the wrath of storms and hurricanes. And also during this time of world turmoil and conflict, we pray for the safety and security of all our armed forces. We give thanks and respect to all our city employees who work daily to serve the public. God be with us all. God bless us all. For all these things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to accept the amended agenda. Second, Mr. Wade, second by Mr. Alderman. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We got a couple of proclamations, and then we'll have the introduction of the Mayor's Youth Council.
I think so.
Popular man, everybody here to see this tonight.
Standing room.
Whereas Gerald Groove is retiring as Public Works Assistant Director of the City of Ocean Springs after a long and successful career of municipal service. And whereas Gerald began his service to the city in 1999 when he joined the City of Ocean Springs Public Works Department as a water laborer. And whereas through hard work, dedication, and extensive knowledge of water infrastructure, Gerald steadily rose through the ranks, serving as assistant water supervisor, and ultimately being promoted to Public Works Assistant Director in November of 2023. Whereas over the course of 26 years, Gerald has proven himself to be an invaluable asset to the city, demonstrating both technical expertise and a strong commitment to public service. And whereas Gerald is instrumental in maintaining and improving the city's water system, mentoring staff, and ensuring the safe and efficient delivery of essential services to residents. And whereas upon his retirement, he leaves behind a legacy of knowledge and teamwork, while he will be greatly missed by his colleagues, he now has the opportunity to enjoy his time and pursuits he so greatly deserves. Now therefore, I, Kenny Holloway, Mayor of the City of Ocean Springs, Mississippi, will hereby extend our congratulations to Gerald Groove for his dedication and service to the community on the 17th day of June, 2025. Maybe they're here to see you. Whereas Sean Lopes is retiring as fire captain of the City of Ocean Springs after a long and distinguished career in public service. And whereas Sean has began his service to our nation as a U.S. Navy and from 18... 1984 to 1990, and continued with the U.S. Air Force Reserve's 403 unit from 1993 until his retirement from the military service in 2004. We keep that crowd a little down back there, please. Whereas over the years, Sean has received numerous honors, including being named firefighter of the year in 2018 for his heroic life-saving actions during an infant drowning emergency, where his quick response and skill helped to save a young life. Whereas for more than 28 years, Sean has served as a mentor and trainer to the younger firefighters, significantly enhancing the department's capabilities through his exceptional mechanical aptitude and hands-on leadership. And whereas Sean's retirement marks the end of a remarkable chapter, defined by service, loyalty, and camaraderie, this firefighter, soldier, and friend will be deeply missed by the city, his fellow firefighters, and the community he served so faithfully. Now he can enjoy the well-deserved earned peace and leisure, activities he loves, like metal detecting, after a lifetime of service unto others. Now therefore, I, Kenny Holloway, Mayor of the City of Ocean Springs, Mississippi, do hereby extend our congratulations to Sean Lopes upon his retirement for his dedication to the service of the community on the 17th day of June, 2025.
We have the 25-26 Mayor's Youth Council here. We're going to have them introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Amber Carter. I'm over the Mayor's Youth Council for 2025-2026. The Mayor's Youth Council is made up of juniors and seniors who live within the city limits of Ocean Springs. We are now doing our 15th year of Mayor's Youth Council, and they're going to stand up and introduce themselves for y'all.
Hi everyone, my name is Francisco Valentine. I'm the Mayor's Youth Council President. I'm an upcoming senior and I am in Ward 5.
Hello, I'm Julie Reynolds. I'm an upcoming junior and I am in Ward 5.
Hi everyone, I'm Ty Glasgow. I'm an upcoming junior and I live outside the city limits.
Hi, my name is Nora Grace Tyndall. I'm an upcoming senior and I also live outside city limits.
Hello, my name is Max Triggers. I'm an upcoming senior and I live in Ward 4.
My name is Niles Shinn. I'm a rising senior and I live in Ward 1.
I'm Peyton Faroon. I'm a rising senior and I live in Ward 5.
Hello, I'm Kurt Sharkey. I live in Ward 5 and I'm upcoming senior.
Hello, my name is Princeton Chesney. I'm an upcoming senior and I live in Ward 5.
I'm Brady Nelson. I'm an upcoming senior and I live in Ward 1.
I'm Vivian Longford and I'm an upcoming senior and I live in Ward 5.
Hi, my name is Hope Moss. I'm an upcoming junior and I live in Ward 2.
Hi, I'm Josephine LeGrone. I'm an upcoming senior and I live in Ward 4. Hi, I'm Hayden Bennett. I'm an upcoming senior and I live outside of city limits.
My name is Emerson Lennon. I'm a rising senior and I live in Ward 3.
Hi, my name is Lonnie Patel. I'm an upcoming junior and I live outside of city limits.
We got some over here.
My name's Samuel Dorsey. I live in Ward 4 and I'm an upcoming senior.
Hi, my name is Zach Tyndall. I'm an upcoming junior and I live outside the city limits.
Hi, my name is Luke Sussland. I'm an upcoming junior and I live in Ward 4.
Hi, my name is Kinsley Grace Kilpatrick. I'm an upcoming junior and I live in Ward 1.
I'm Avery Wallace. I'm an upcoming junior and I live in Ward 1.
I'm Aaron Adriano. I'm an upcoming senior and I live outside of Settlement.
I'm Dupree Wooden. I'm an upcoming junior and I live in Ward 4.
I'm Emma Hancock. I'm an upcoming senior and I live outside of city limits.
I'm Haley Daughtry. I'm the Mayor's Youth Council Secretary. I'm an upcoming senior and I live outside of city limits.
Solo. Okay, congratulations. You're going to gain a lot of knowledge about city government, and I hope you enjoy your year. This is
Looking forward to working with each and every one of you.
I think we can say Ward 5 is well represented.
Well represented.
influence in that. We have public hearing, item 4 on your agenda. It's a request for a conditional use permit to build a single-family residence at 1208 Harbor Road, zoning CM Commercial Marina. Planning Commission recommends approval. Is there a motion to open the public hearing? Second by Mr. Othman, second by Mr. Wade. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Wade?
Thank you. I'll make this fairly brief. The reason this is before you is that the property is in the commercial marina zoning district. It is right on the edge of the district, but the owner of the property wishes the ability to build a single-family dwelling on that, which is consistent with the properties immediately surrounding it, but it does have to go through this process due to that commercial zoning designation it has. But the intent is for it to be compatible with the surrounding uses, which it is, so the Planning Commission recommended approval. I'm glad to answer any questions about it. Thank
Anybody
you.
got any questions for Wade? Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak for or against the rezoning?
Make a motion, we come out of public hearing, Mayor.
Got a motion by Mr. Cox, second by Mr. Blackman. All in favor?
Aye.
We have a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit to build a single-family residence at 1208 Harbor Road, parcel ID number 61124900.015.
Motion by Mr. Othman, second by Ms. Burgess. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 4B, Lima Properties LLC on Martin Luther King Drive, PID numbers 60119328.000 and .0550 and 601193303320 3340 340 is requesting zoning. We're requesting a zoning change from RD to family residential to CMX neighborhood commercial mixed use. Planning Commission recommends denial. Is there a motion to open the public hearing? Motion by Mr. Wade. Second by Mr. Othman. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Wade?
Thank you. The property is on the screen there. You can see, as you mentioned, it is 6 separate parcels, all currently zoned RD. As you can see, one of the parcels is landlocked, has access only through some of the others. Currently, there are a few single-family dwellings on it in various states of various conditions. When this went to the Planning Commission, it was at its Tuesday, May 13th meeting, and they heard from the applicant at that time. Primarily the discussion was about the proposed subdivision of the property and the proposed uses. But the Planning Commission was primarily had to look at the rezoning, since that was what was in front of them at the time. And based on the information that was presented to them by the applicant and also by the neighbors, the Planning Commission came to the conclusion that there had not been a change in the character of the neighborhood to warrant the change in the zoning. So for that reason, they recommended denial of the zoning change. Since that time, the owner has contracted with Donovan Scruggs to look in more detail into the zoning of the property, and a report from him is part of your packet. That was not provided. That was not provided to the Planning Commission, so they did not have that information. But I'm sure he wants to present that to you and just go into more detail about the zoning change. Thank you.
Jonathan?
I'm glad to answer questions if you have those first.
Anybody have any questions for Wade before Mr. Scruggs comes up? Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Donovan Scruggs, 317 Pine Drive here in Ocean Springs. And the owners contacted me after the denial by the planning commission to address, the changes that have occurred. The next slide, please. The area is on Martin Luther King Avenue, and if you look at this slide, you can tell there's a good diversity of zoning around here. In fact, if you look more closely at it, you'll see there's been several rezonings in this neighborhood. Specifically, the Broome site was rezoned from Highway Commercial 2 CMX2 a few years ago. The Y was rezoned. The Mary C. O'Keefe was rezoned. I believe the area down, which is now 1515, was rezoned. To put it short, there's been a bunch of rezonings in this area. Next slide, please. This is the layout of the property. As Wade said, it's about 6 parcels, and of those, they all have some form of nonconformity with them, meaning they don't meet today's code. Either their lots are too small or their structures don't meet the code. Because of this, they could not simply rebuild what they have now. They would have to either hope that they were grandfathered in with some kind of lot of record, but that really is up to the council, and oftentimes that it's not a by right type use. As Wade said, one of the lots is landlocked in the rear. The houses are all in pretty substandard condition, especially the one on the south. It basically needs to be torn down or demolished. This gives you a pretty good idea of the proximity to Broome's Grocery, which, over the past few years, Broome's has expanded a good bit. It's no longer Broome's Grocery. It's now a buffet and a restaurant and several other little retail shops. Next slide, please. This gives you a really good rundown of the changes that have occurred in the area over the past 20 years. It all started back in 1997. Macedonia Church expanded. I believe that they took up additional lots to the west. Then, not too long ago, I think in 21, they purchased property across the street and paved that parking lot. You've had things like the Fur property that was one time single-family residential that modified and changed to an office space. You have the YMCA, you've got Broome's. You've got 2 properties that are located directly across from the Blue Dog Bistro, which were one-time single-family residential. Those homes are no longer there. So in fact, if you look at the west side of Martin Luther King, there's absolutely no residential component to it. And in fact, with the way this property is right now, it does not touch a residential property except for the tail end of one up on Railroad Street. Adjacent to the parking lot, which had to go through you guys for a special exception because it didn't comply with your regulations. And in fact, I pointed out at the time when the application was filed that it did not meet the intent of the ordinance and that it should be denied. Obviously, y'all didn't listen to me, and it was approved. The YMCA, it has expanded over the years and is currently in the process of doing another expansion. So when you look at the area, to say there has been no change is really closing your eyes and not looking. The next slide, please. This shows you what Martin Luther King looks like now. The property on the south is there adjacent to Broome's Grocery, and it's about 5 feet from the air conditioners and everything else associated with the grocery store, or I'm sorry, the commercial center. To the north, you see the parking lot that was put in by Macedonia. Churches have parking issues and they need parking spaces, but now this is adjacent to what used to be a single-family residential home. And of course, across the street, you've got MLK Park. Non-residential uses are what are adjacent to this property. I also want to point out that the property has been listed for over 2 years. The property was on the market for over 2 years, in which anybody who wanted the property could have purchased it. The developers bought it, and now they have plans to do something with it. Next slide, please. This shows you a little bit of the transitions that occurred. MLK shows you the parking lot that was once a grassy lot, and now it's not. You've got the Broome's complex, which has the crawfish house. which adds a lot more traffic to the area and a lot more, commercial intensity to the area. You also see all those parking places on the south side of Bruce. Those weren't there 10 years ago. Until he did his expansion, that was parking for his catering and truck, and that was about it. Now with the more intense uses at the building, the neighborhood has changed, and it does affect the subject property. This is what they look at every day. There's traffic backing up, on government, on MLK. That's what we have in downtown Ocean Springs. Next slide, please. These are structures. This is pictures of the structure on the south side to give you an idea of the decay. The house has not been lived in for years. This was actually not part of the properties that were for sale, but the developer reached out to the property owners and convinced them to sell it to him. So by doing this, we're going to take out 3 structures that are in a substandard condition and hopefully reconfigure the lots into something that's more fitting with the CMX1 zoning if I'm afforded that rezoning tonight. Next slide, please. I can go through the number of items that are consistent with the existing comprehensive plan. It does talk about infill development. It does talk about getting rid of substandard housing. It talks about using transitional zoning, which is what this would be. We're going from a CMX1, which is a pretty intense district with almost 0 lot lines, to a CMX1. CMX1 is a district that allows single-family residential and other uses that are more compatible with single-family residential neighborhoods. So I think by doing this and not going CMX2, we're a better fit for the neighborhood than what you would see with a CMX2 or the CH zoning that's across the street. In fact, in case y'all didn't catch this, the property across the street at the corner of MLK and Government Street is on highway commercial. The uses that are allowed on that property are the same ones that are allowed on Highway 90. So it is in proximity to some pretty intense zones, and we think the CMX1 is a good alternative. Next slide, please. This is some more of the compatibility with the comprehensive plan. It talks about providing diversity of housing and uses that are more fitting to neighborhoods, such as professional offices. So we think we are consistent with the comp plan in this regard. Next slide. And once again, I like the comp plan. I probably read it more than most folks in Ocean Springs, and it has a number of items that demonstrates the plan that we have is really consistent with what the city has laid out in this plan. Next slide, please. This is the basis for rezoning. I think the CMX1 is a more appropriate district. Change has occurred in the neighborhood. There's no way to really say that this area is consistent with the way it was in 1990 or even 2000 when you look at the number of non-residential uses that have now become evident in the neighborhood. Next slide. And then public need. Getting rid of substandard housing stock is something that I think is beneficial to the city. There's no way to say that the house on the tail end, the south end of this project meets your current codes. And by approving this plan, the developer can move forward and do a plan that is more consistent with downtown Ocean Springs. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. I probably went over my time frame there, but I try to be fast.
Well, that's a complex deal. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Scruggs?
Donovan, I do just have one. I mean, I know in conversations with others, one question I had was the proposal that went along with the rezoning request. That proposal, I think, is partially part of the reason this got denied, because that had more homes than what would be allowed in that with the setbacks and all. It just didn't fit the property. Can you explain any of that?
Yeah, I was not part of the original application, and I looked at it, and I had some issues with the plan that was presented. I believe there was not even some compatibility issues, but also it did not meet some of your code issues. I believe it had 25-foot lots and 20-foot buildings and 5-foot setbacks. And I'm not an engineer, but at least I know that doesn't add up. So the plan that was presented did not meet the code. What was presented did not meet code. And that's why I always encourage my clients not to really show anything, because once you get a zoning, you're able to do whatever's allowed in the CMX1 district. When you start showing plans, people begin to pick apart those plans and say, well, we don't like the color of this, we don't like the height of this, we don't like the pitch of this roof. And the conversation should not be about what's going there, but, you know, is the zoning district that's being proposed consistent with the area, and does it meet the standards?
Correct. I think that did play a lot into the
Yeah.
recommendation to deny.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything for Don?
Do they plan to, just for instance, if we okay this, do they plan, have any intentions of not meeting the CMX code?
Of course not. I mean, I don't.
I know what I'm asking.
Even if they have plans to, they can't, you know, I mean, they've got to, without, you know.
Why did they give you this initial plan?
I believe it was, you know, trying to get something to give an idea of what would work. And I believe somebody overlooked some of the rules, and it didn't comply. But I mean, like I said, Mr. Pena, he can't build anything that does not meet code, and we're going to look at it.
That was a loaded question. I just needed to hear it from you.
I'm sorry?
That was a loaded question. I just needed to hear it from you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, is there anyone here that would like to speak for or against the rezoning?
My name is Joe Jewell, Ward 3. I spoke against this proposal at the Planning Commission, and I speak against it tonight for a lot of the very same reasons that Mr. Struggs stated. The CMX, once it's approved, it allows them to do whatever they want. They can modify the plan in any manner that they see fit. That the proposal as stands now on the city's website still shows 13 units. The lots are now 30 feet wide with 5-foot offsets, meaning the width of the building can only be 20 feet. As it stands tonight, not at the planning meeting. And as I stated at the planning meeting, Martin Luther King is a major egress into downtown. The next street that hits it is Washington Street. There's really two main pathways into downtown. And Martin Luther King is a lot narrower driveway into the city. It has a lot of traffic that it can't handle now. And now we're going to propose putting a dense development into the property where there's going to be multiple cars. There's 13 units in it. There's no family, a single unit family can be in there, so they're going to have at least 2 cars. There's not enough parking in the development right now to support 26 cars. But let's just say there's 26 cars trying to move out onto Martin Luther King with all the traffic, all during the day. And they're going to have to find off-site parking, which is Macedonia's parking lot, the Parks parking lot, YMCA's parking lot. And as I mentioned before, it's in a major school transportation zone. We have the YMCA, the daycare facilities, the after-school facilities. We have 2 schools, the school district right down the road. It's a major busing vein for all those students that go through there. And I would again ask that y'all deny this permit. I mean, so there are issues with the property now. There are issues with the structures that are on the property now. But this proposal for this development is exacerbating that. It's not improving it. It's making it even more dense and adding to the traffic in that area. I recommend that y'all deny this permit as the planning board did. Thank you.
Good evening, James Lewis, 805 Canebrake Drive. One of the key points here is going back and looking at the property. I've come before you all before on the traffic that's on MLK. I almost got killed twice down there on the traffic. Y'all went back in and put the 20-mile zone in there, and that still worked. What they did, they put the cart before the horse. They showed their hand as to what they really wanted to do, and now they're coming back and said, well, we really didn't want to go back in and do that. We didn't want to let you know what we were doing. And that's the key thing here. That it's already been stated. There's so much traffic on MLK now, because it's funny. When Blue Dog goes back in and get an 18-wheeler that comes in there, that blocks up that traffic. When Brooms goes back in and get an 18-wheeler, you got a center turning lane that blocks up that traffic as far as going back in and making deliveries. There's no need to go back in and try to slip in 13 houses under the radar screen, because that is exactly what they tried to do. Then they got their hand showed, and then all of a sudden, well, we really didn't want to go back in and show it. I tell my clients, don't do that. The bottom line is that this does not need to be changed, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very kindly. Have a nice day.
Good evening, Sam Washington, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, Macedonia Baptist Church. Like I raised during the Planning Commission, they want to change it to CMX1 zoning district. And we're not saying we're against improvement, but if you look at the profile for R2 zoning, it calls for low to medium density residential district with detached dwelling consistent with traditional neighborhoods. Principal use for land is a single family dwelling. So kind of like Mr. Lewis said, really we're kind of coming in now and saying we want to change it to CM1. But if we really just about being in keeping with the comprehensive plan and getting more affordable dwelling, what is the need for it to change from R2 to CM1? Other than, like Mr. Lewis said, the plan that was put before the Planning Commission was to put 13 houses on that property for starting at anywhere from $500,000 to $550,000. So I think this plan should be disapproved for that reason. It's already R2, so you still can put residential property on there. You just won't get 13 houses there. And that is my opinion on this. Thank you.
P. Wickman, and I live on the corner of Porter and Ward. And I go down Martin Luther King just about every day. For one thing, I go that way to get to church. We have pantry on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The big grassy area there on the west side of Martin Luther King once was home to 3 houses and a small concrete building that was a barber shop that sat out by the sidewalk. That property, which I understood was being asked $154,000 for all of that several years ago, apparently sold. It is now roped off, but there is a street that runs right behind that. And as you go down Martin Luther King, you see cars parked all the way on the side of that street. There are actually 2 streets. The other one is right in front of Martin Luther King. On the property that I am assuming is that they want to build on, there's an old house right behind the restaurant that I don't know anybody living in probably the last 10 or 15 years or more. But the great big property apparently still has apartments in it that people are living in, because you can drive by there and there'll be 6 cars. And this is the property that had the for sale sign out in front of it for so long. And then there's another old house that matches kind of the old house behind the restaurant that's there. But there is a lot of traffic. There are people that take their children there to play on the playground and use the basketball court there. We don't need a whole lot of traffic and a whole lot of people. So I am against them building 14 of anything in that little specific area. I can understand why it would be nice if they would clean up the what's there and then make it nicer looking, but you've got cars, you've got people, you've got children, and we don't need another big mess like the people that were waking me up at 6 o'clock in the morning hammering at 15:15.
Good evening, Greg Gibson, 6516 Shoshone Drive. We are opposed of the 13 homes that they're planning on putting on that piece of property. Now, the ML Park that he was talking about upgraded, yes it was, because 4 years ago we talked about equal funding for all parks, and that park needed to be upgraded because it was neglected for several years. So that's what you see on that slide that he presented. That was just an improvement that the city of Ocean Springs invested in MLK Park. Secondly, the home that he's talking about is Clarence Mercer home, which is the brown home, that brown house that needs to be torn down or whatever. But I beg to differ that if the planning department or the code enforcement officer would have been by there, I would like to see how many citations that homeowner had. So if one was even given, so if one was given, you know, he should have been afforded the opportunity to get it cleaned up or tear it down. You know, so that home on that piece of property behind the Blue Dog Bistro, we know that needs some work. But if that was the case, I would like to see where's the ticket or the whatever they have to make sure that that property is cleaned up. That's what I'm saying here. And also too, the traffic alone on MLK. Now on Sunday when we go there and worship for parking, we park in that parking lot that we pay for. We don't owe the bank anything. We park in, we come out, we look to the left, look to the right. It's still traffic along MLK. And then when we have Peter Anderson Festival, any festival that's downtown, all that traffic comes directly up MLK because the other areas are shut down. So it's a lot of traffic in there, and we do not need any additional traffic in there. All the properties that he was talking about, the rezoning, all that's on Government Street. And when the Blue Dog Bistro went into Broome, they knew they was 350 feet away from the church. So with that being said, they have came several times in front of the church requesting a liquor license from Macedonia, and we said no. The church voted to decide no to a liquor license for the Blue Dog Bistro. So what we're saying here, we don't want 13 homes built on that lot, because if you look at it, where are they going to go? Where are they going to turn around at? And they were talking about putting a circle inside of that, a street inside of that area right there. It's just not enough room for that. If he's going to build something, build 1 or 2 homes, but 13 is excessive. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Esther Payton, 924 Cash Alley. I am a lifelong member of Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church. We do oppose the changing or the rezoning of that property that was purchased. All of the changes that the gentleman mentioned earlier, all of those changes took place on Government Street, not on MLK. The man who spoke to the Planning Commission, his plan was to build 13 single-family homes on that property, starting out at $500,000 a piece. And there's no room for that. He said it, 1.1 acre is what is there. That's unreal. That just can't be. As Mr. Gibson mentioned about the traffic, when there are events downtown and Washington is blocked off, MLK, that's your thoroughfare. That's where the traffic comes. And when they don't want to sit in line to get to Government Street, where do they come? Through our church parking lot. We don't need that there. We already have enough traffic there already. We don't need it. The gentleman who spoke, he mentioned traffic 3 times. We know that's an issue, so why would you add to that? Also, he mentioned about the property being up for sale for several months or even a year or so. Well, the person who owned that property or a portion of that property is a member of our church. The church, we wanted to purchase that property. However, we were not going to pay the price in which he wanted. So then the person who did purchase that property got it for far less. But he didn't offer that to us at the church. That speaks volumes, in my opinion. I wanted to remain residential. Is MLK, there are homes on the other side of our parking lot. We have been blessed at Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church that yes, we have been blessed that we have 3 parking lots. The Lord is blessing our membership and He is blessing us. We take care of what we have. We pay for what we have. We are truly blessed by the Lord. MLK needs to remain as it is. We do not need anything commercial coming through there. If he wants to put something there, as stated prior to, put your 2 homes there. Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak for or against?
Sorry. Azure Waller, Ward 1.
Can you speak up, please, ma'am? Speak up a little bit.
Azure Waller, Ward 1. Is that better? I would just like to say, I was on MLK, or actually I was at Macedonia, and let me be clear, I'm not a member of the church, but my mom is, and I'm there often driving her to the church. And I was sitting in the parking lot, and as the cars were coming over the railroad tracks, it was just like, shoot, shoot, like just no speed limit, no anything. And traffic has been mentioned, but the thing that I would like to point out is if the city wants to grow, I know smart growth has been mentioned a lot. And is this a smart move to allow someone to build residential housing on something that's commercial, but it's already zoned residential? So I just feel like if the change needs to be made, then the plans that go with it need to make sense. And right now, they don't. Because if you're gonna zone something commercial and then build residential properties, you should have just left it as residential. Thank you.
Mark Aragon, Ward 2. I was at the planning meeting, twice as many people as tonight spoke. And I think a lot of them didn't show up tonight because they just assumed that y'all were going to go with the planning commission's recommendation. A lot of these people have amazing, they all have super valid points on that neighborhood.
Turn it up.
Can't hear you.
Speak directly into it. Mark, you gotta speak directly into it.
Okay. Do I need to start again?
Yes.
Okay. I was at the planning commission meeting when this thing went through, when this thing was presented. Twice as many people as tonight spoke up there. And I think a lot of them didn't show up because they had just assumed that y'all would take the recommendation, which was to deny this thing right here. I'm really not sure why this didn't. I mean, Mr. Scruggs, he knows his stuff, and he always wins. But I don't know why this isn't going back to the planning commission. Now that they got this whole plan, why is this not going back to the planning commission? And then they'll get a fair shake at it. That's where it should go, right? So if they denied this in the first place, I don't know why y'all are taking the same thing into consideration, because he didn't give any new information. The whole thing was about, has the neighborhood changed? And the neighborhood hasn't changed. It's the exact same way it was when I was a kid, and we went in rooms every Sunday after church, man, to get them potato logs right there. And I love that neighborhood. I always see that big old church reminded me of ours, and they always had a bunch of kids and families over there playing, and they still do right now. Like somebody mentioned, it's one of the main thoroughfares in the downtown. I think it's great that people come in, they see those churches, they see the kids on the park, all those folks over there having fun. Traffic is already terrible, will be made way worse. But the main thing that they kept mentioning at the planning commission was, has the neighborhood changed? And it hasn't. If somebody was living in all those houses that they want to tear down right now, it would be the exact same neighborhood it's been since I was a kid. I enjoyed all the pictures that Mr. Scruggs had up there. That one, 1992, the black and white. I was looking for horses and wagons, and I remember I was here, and there wasn't no horses and wagons, but that black and white added a nice touch. It hasn't changed, and they said that, well, they said, I don't know if some of these houses would be grandfathered in and whatnot. When Ricky's neighbor was wanting to tear down their house, and we almost did the whole thing where they just wanted to do the variance where people didn't even have to ask for variances anymore. Then Carter explained to Ricky that, yeah, his neighbor would be able to build the house back just as is in that footprint because it was grandfathered in. So all those properties over there that are on Martin Luther King, if they wanted to tear them down, they could build back. They could build back new houses right in that thing. They could have the same amount over there. They could still get top dollar. They could still make good money on that thing, and it wouldn't inconvenience. It wouldn't change the neighborhood. It wouldn't add all that extra traffic, all that condensed stuff. Hey, Macedonia, they're growing, which is a wonderful thing. This is going to make it more difficult on them. It's going to make it more difficult on all of us that live downtown, where the traffic and parking are already an issue. So if nothing else, please, just kick it back and then present this thing again to the planning commission as it should be, and then see what their recommendation is next time around. But for them to have recommended y'all not doing it, and then y'all, if y'all pass this, then why do we have these other commissions on that?
Thank you, Mark. Can't hear you.
Just wanted to say that at the planning commission meeting, you guys denied it, they denied it. Mr. Scruggs brought forward some new information, which was traffic's a major issue, and that the crawfish house and the YMCA, which has just been built up more and more over the years, has just brought more and more traffic. So I don't understand why you would override the planning commission, especially when all he's done is brought up that there's a huge traffic issue here. When the guy came up and talked about the development, he talked about single-family homes and made it sound like it was going to be this nice, quaint little community, which we don't know how physically the laws of physics would allow those houses to be fit in that area. But I asked the question, would those be STRs, or would they be single-family homes that people were actually living in full-time? And he did not answer. I envisioned that it would in the future be STRs. So that's going to be just more and more traffic in and out. And every time I go through there and a train stop, not even during festival times like they mentioned, it's a nightmare. And then you put, like they said, an 18-wheeler in there or a festival, it goes beyond anybody's, how they could fathom you would agree to do this. 3 new homes there would be great because you got 3 home sites. But anything more than that is ridiculous. Thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to speak for or against? Okay, does anybody have any questions for Wade or Mr. Scruggs? I have one question. Donovan. The proposal they made, did it conform to the zoning they're requesting? Or was there variances that are going to be required, setback adjustments, so forth?
I think it would require some adjustments, Mayor. Keep in mind that if they want to do 5, 15, 25 lots, that has to go back to the planning commission for a public hearing or a subdivision. And then it has to go through that formal process. So, I mean, it doesn't matter what he shows tonight, and it doesn't matter what he shows the planning commission. That's not the plan y'all were approving. We can say 13 times, but 13 has no bearing on what you approved tonight. What you approved tonight is simply a rezoning. Yeah.
Okay, I want to get that clear.
May I address some issues that were mentioned?
Sure.
Sure. While we may say commercial, this is CMX1, which is neighborhood mixed use. Neighborhood mixed use. It allows single-family residential. It allows some, multifamily. It allows some office space. It is not necessarily commercial. Now, for anybody, somebody said there, I didn't mention any change on MLK. The houses that are across the street that are no longer there are changes. They were 3 little houses, Ms. Whitman said, and now there's none. That's on MLK. The church parking lot that people mentioned the traffic and they're trying to cross. I think I brought that up at my time at the other night. That's a change on MLK. The Blue Dog Bistro sits now on the corner of MLK and Government Street, and people park on MLK and they actually have breakfast on MLK. So I don't know how many times I have to say MLK to say that the changes that are occurring here are not specifically and only on Government Street, but they are also on MLK. So I do think, that is relevant. The, traffic, traffic is an issue. Traffic is an issue everywhere. Unlike what Mr. Jewell said, I think there is more than two ways into downtown. I think Porter's a good way. I think Thorne's a good way. I think Holcomb's a good way. I believe there's several ways to get in and out of downtown. And I live on Pine, so I use MLK as much as anybody else in trying to get to, well, I used to go to Winn-Dixie quite often, now I don't. But I use it quite often, and I see it no more busier than Pine Drive when Public Works lets out. I mean, we have traffic in downtown Ocean Springs. We have traffic on Highway 90. We have traffic everywhere. When I was city planner back in 2000, guess what? We had traffic. We're going to always have traffic. But this matters like that are really left up for the planning commission to hear when we come forward with a subdivision plan. If 13 is too much, then I'm sure it'll be reduced. But there will be modifications to that plan, and we'll do something that we hope meets the city's code.
I was just gonna say, I think I heard a whole lot of stuff that really didn't pertain tonight. I heard about Blue Dog, and I heard about houses and stuff like that, but I mean, this is strictly to determine if there was a changing character of MLK, and I agree with you. I mean, the people that own the property across, that used to where the three houses were, they're actually talking about doing a mixed use there, with residential upstairs and commercial downstairs. And we did allow for the parking lot across from the church. I mean, that changes the street too. I wish I could say different, but I mean, it changed.
And the mixed use designation is such so that it does afford for the broadest range of options and not just pigeonholing into one specific thing, correct?
That's correct. The CMX1 is your most restrictive zoning in the commercial categories. I mean, it's the only C district that allows single-family residential. So yeah, it's by far the most restrictive district that is allowed. And it's good for places like Porter Avenue and places that are kind of on the outskirts. It's a good transitional zone between the more intense CMX2 and neighborhoods.
Okay, is there a motion? Anybody else got anything for Donovan? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Thank you.
Motion by Mr. Wade.
Second.
Mr. Papania, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Anybody have a motion?
Well, I think MLK has changed, and I make a motion that we approve it.
Got a motion by Mr. Alderman.
Second.
Second by Ms. Papania.
Just for discussion, Ricky, that'll have to be for changing the character of neighborhood and public need, if it's an approval motion.
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve the rezoning for the changing character and public need.
And to be clear, we're talking about just the rezoning. We're not approving the
No, we're not
plans.
approving anything else.
We got a motion by Mr. Alderman. Do we have a second again by Ms. Papania? Okay. Now, Jennifer.
Yeah, so for clarification, we're just talking about rezoning. We're not talking about approving any of the plans that have been presented for this property.
That's correct.
That's correct. Okay, any other comments?
So I was just gonna say, I think at this point, I think it'd be more proper to go back with Mr. Scruggs' presentation to the planning commission and let them review it. And then send it back to us.
I feel the same way, Mike.
Well, I pretty much agree with what Donovan said, but I think it needs to be further vetted by the commission.
Okay. Well, with that said, those comments, need a roll call.
What are we voting on there?
Voting on Ricky's.
The motion.
Motion to rezone,
Motion Ricky made to rezone.
to approve the rezoning. Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye. Nay.
Nay.
All right. Going back to the planning commission, Donovan.
Yeah, they should make a separate
Motion.
motion.
Make a second
I'll make a
motion.
motion to send it back to the planning commission for further review.
Hold on. Second by Mr. Wade, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Agenda public comment. Public is invited to address the board for up to 3 minutes.
Another public hearing, Mayor.
Did I? Oh, what? Oh,
C.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, item C. Request for the north side of Bienville Boulevard between Lakeview Drive and Mississippi Highway 57. It's PID 61104.005.000. Request for a conditional use permit to build a mixed-use development for retail and residential use, zoning CH, regional commercial. Planning Commission recommends approval. Is there a motion to open the public hearing? Motion by Mr. Wade. Second by Mr. Impey. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Wade.
Thank you. Go to the previous one. Sorry, that's the wrong one. Yeah, that's one before that. That gives you shows the zoning of this area. The property is kind of in the pink, about the center screen, circle with the red circle around it. As you can see, it is put out zone CH, highway commercial. It is in along Bienville Boulevard with a substantial amount of both commercial and multifamily zoning and development. Immediately to the east of this property is the recently completed canvas apartments. It's in the brown and red colors on the screen. And the specific proposal with this one, go to the next slide, please, is for a apartment development, residential apartment development on the northern part of the property, setting aside the two commercial areas for future retail or commercial development at some point in the future. This is before you as a conditional use permit to ensure that the proposed uses, in this case multifamily, are consistent with the area. Make sure it's not run into a problem with incompatible land uses or traffic issues. In this case, as I said, there are the canvas apartments immediately to the east, so that is consistent with that overall character of the area. And it's for that reason that the Planning Commission recommended approval of this conditional use permit. And we have some representatives from the developer if you have questions for them too.
Anybody have any questions for Wade before we go? Does somebody need to speak on the development part of this?
As Wade said, it's adjacent to commercial property already that's going to, Dennis Tower, 206 Ashland Place, Ocean Springs. And so this is adjacent to that. It's zone commercial, highway commercial already. And so there is actually for conditional use to allow the residential component of that to be used in the development. This is a preliminary development. We're not wed to any particular layout, number of units or anything at that time. We're just asking for a conditional use approval to add multifamily housing as a component, approved component to the use of the property under this zone.
Okay, anybody have any questions? All right, thank you. Is there anyone here to speak for or against?
Chuck Jewell, Ward 3. I want to make an opening comment, just in general, about the unfairness of the way this board, mayor, treats the citizens of Ocean Springs. We can stand up here for 5 minutes and make a comment, or 3 minutes during the public hearing, but the developer, the contractor, they get 2, 3, 4 swings at it as many times as the board wants to call them back up to have at it. Mr. Scruggs stood up here for over 9 minutes and was not called on any of those penalties, but I can guarantee you in 5 minutes, I'm going to be shut down pretty quickly.
You will
I'll make
be.
that clear for the record.
You will be, but when we're talking to a developer, we have a lot of questions that we need to find out the answers to.
the public should be able to respond to the accusations that the developer makes. So this development here, if they could bring back up that picture that shows the development and its access, I'm not opposed per se to this development. It's in a good district, it's in a good use. But the only issue that I have is you'll look that there's 3 egresses on the Highway 90. And all 3 of them vent west, except for the central one. There's an option there that can go across the median and go back to the east, and the eastmost egress can cross over that median too. There's no turn capacity into that lane. They're gonna have to pull out into traffic. If they pull in a trailer or whatever, it's gonna block traffic and cause a potential hazard on that street. Since the developer is here and his representatives, I would just ask that they consider widening those or building a service lane onto the property that allows better flow and venting out onto 90. As it is now, it can be a pretty dangerous thing, particularly in the mornings and afternoons, traffic to and from work. We got major employers to the east, Singing River Hospital System and Ingalls Shipyard, where there's going to be a lot of traffic for a lot of these. There's 24 multi-family units in there. That's up to 40, 50, 60 cars that could potentially move in out of there in the mornings and the afternoons all at one time. I just would hope that the developer would consider widening those or working with the Mississippi Department of Transportation to create better egress. Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak for or against? Okay, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Blackman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Altamont. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, okay, so is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve. I lost the,
Item C, 4C.
my pad just way down on me here. Make a motion to approve the conditional use permit to build a mixed-use development for retail and residential use on Bienville Boulevard between Lakeview Drive and Mississippi Highway 57.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Impey, second by Ms. Burgess. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving on to agenda public comment. The public is invited to address the board for up to 3 minutes each for a maximum period of 30 minutes, only regarding issues listed on this agenda. Please identify yourself and the agenda item before speaking.
Joe Jewell, Ward 3. I'd like to comment on agenda 7A. Potential construction of a historic house in Neptune Springs. So there were 208 Washington Avenue. Again, this was presented to the Historic Preservation Commission, and it was denied. The applicant stated that there was termite damage to the point that the structure was unsalvageable. I've actually visited that site. I've looked at the structure. I've looked at the property. That structure's still in pretty good shape. I think the applicant just wants to tear the house down and build a more modern house at the expense of our culture and our history. This house has been there for over 100 years now and is in still pretty good shape. It's in really good shape, not pretty good shape, it's really good shape. My comments to the Historic Preservation Committee was to deny this request to destroy the property and tear it down, and my request to this board and the mayor is to deny this permit and keep as many historical structures in Ocean Springs as we can. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Rhonda Copper. I live at 140 Pine Drive, and I'm here to address the B approval request of vacant right of way on South Street. I am the neighbor at 140 Drive, 140 Pine Drive. I'm very nervous. I'm not used to doing any of this stuff. But anyway, I was approached by the people who purchased 132 Pine Drive about the easement on my property. I lived there for 12 years. I really did not take a close look at it. After the meeting last Tuesday, I asked my alderman to come out and please look at it with me. I was very nervous about my ditch, which drains 132 and 140 Pine into it. When it rains or if there's a hurricane or anything, that ditch is used for drainage. And the people have asked that that Twilight Zone road be given to them, because I try to find the road to do my due diligence about the road, Sells Street. I have no information, I was given no information, no documents. I'm just going by what the neighbors who purchased it, no documentations, no explanation for easement of me maybe possibly owning half. So what I'm asking for tonight, because I only have 3 minutes, is that you pull it so I can have more time to research what they're talking about, see some real documents. They're both attorneys. I'm not an attorney, I'm a nurse. I need more time.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Jacqueline Wrigley, Ward 2, but I'm one of the co-owners of 132 Pine. And I would submit to you all that while Ms. Hopper may prefer to have more time, ultimately the standard that you're addressing is whether the Planning Commission's recommendation to vacate Sells Street complies with Mississippi law. If you notice in your packet, on June 11th, Ms. Hopper actually submitted an email saying that she would like to request the vacation of the right-of-way for Sells Street. And so, as a result, there's really nothing left to discuss. The Planning Commission has made a recommendation. The law describes the standard by which you would make that vacation. Both adjacent property owners appear to be in agreement that the right-of-way should be vacated. And so as it relates to the division of that property, that should just be governed by Mississippi law and resolved by the city department that handles that kind of thing after the board makes its decision. So nothing further. Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Dan Burton, 1109 Washington Avenue. I've got a couple points of clarification because I'm actually lost, okay, related to the process that we're going through. I'm on the item number 6 under old business related to a vacation. There was also a public notice that was issued in the newspaper that I'm on the July 1st Board of Alderman hearing also related to the same issue. I was notified, the Planning Commission was on the 10th, and they made a ruling on the 10th. And according to your ordinances and basically state statute, agreed property owners have 10 days to make an appeal. Okay, so I'm not real smart. I mean, I'm a CPA, I can do pretty good math. And, you know, June 10th plus 10 equals June 20th. So today is what? Today's the 17th. There's other property owners that had opposed this vacation. They would have legal rights here. And so I've got my attorney that's with me here today, and I'm not real sure because I don't come to these meetings on a regular basis. I don't know what old business means. I know you got me on a public hearing in July 1st. I'm just a citizen, I'm just a taxpayer and a property owner, and I'm trying to do what's right. But there's been so much misinformation related to this whole thing. It's been a complete waste of time of city resources, my resources, probably the developer's resources, because of misinformation, not necessarily by your planning commission. There's certain other people that have been involved in this process that have perpetuated this situation to where it's at today. So my question is a point of order, I guess. This is very new to me. And is my attorney or I going to be able to actually present something under the old business? And the second question, a follow-up question on that, is why would I be scheduled for a hearing tonight on this issue, and then I'm on the agenda for July 1st? And I'd like some comments on that besides the city attorney related to this.
Yes, you will be able to speak again when we get to that part of the agenda. An old business, yes. Now, Will's gonna have to address the rest of it.
Yeah, and I just want to note, I'm surprised to hear you say that, Mr. Burton. I've talked to you about this at length, about this process. I told you, I believe, on the phone call yesterday or this week at some point that you would be on the agenda as old business, and you could get up during the agenda, come to public comment to discuss your item as you're doing now. I also said it's not noticed for a public hearing, so if the board decides to, they can take more comment at the agenda item when it comes out. So in relation to the notice going out for a future board meeting, I know you know the Planning Commission made a recommendation that there'd be a further public hearing at the July 1st board meeting. It was exactly that, a recommendation, which this board is here to consider tonight if they would like to approve that or not. So I'm sure that notice was sent out by the Planning Department and as a precaution in case, you know, they decided to approve and have another public hearing for the new board. So again, I've discussed that with you. Maybe not the notice, but, you know, I'm just becoming aware of the notice, but, and I've got more to discuss on the agenda item when it comes to it.
Okay, may I respond?
Well, you can, we're gonna go over this in depth.
I understand, but I'd like to, could I respond now?
Very quickly, please.
Okay. All I'm gonna say is we'll take it up under item 6, and win, lose, or draw tonight, it's okay. Okay, Dan's gonna be okay. All right, City of Ocean Springs is gonna be okay. Okay, so I wanna make sure everybody understands that. But what I am trying to tell you is that it is kind of strange that I have somebody call me Friday night when I'm out to dinner, this past Friday night, and says, you know what, you're on a hearing Tuesday, tonight. Okay, I knew I was on a hearing July 1st, okay, but quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not real sure how that works, and that's okay. That's okay, because I didn't want to not show up, because that would be disrespectful to this board. So that's all I have to say.
We'll discuss this a little bit more in depth. Anybody else? Agenda item. Okay. Oh.
Yeah. Good evening. It's Bud Miller, 417 Dewey, Ward 2. Now, I guess I have to ask you all permission. I don't see the tree removal on the agenda. Could I speak about what, there were 5, I think, tree removal requests on the...
Which tree removal are you talking about, Glenn?
Basically 1401.
Hey,
Government.
JJ.
Is it on?
JJ.
If
It's
it's
in the
not,
consent agenda.
Yeah.
It is an agenda item if you want to discuss it.
all right. Well, I'll recognize the good board here and the board members that are leaving. Thank you for your service, and our good mayor, thank you for your service. There's several things, you know, I have been in touch with Michael Beach. He's contacted me, wanted to talk about the tree removal there. It's a beautiful young oak, or pretty, you know, let's say teenage oak there, across from Phoenicia. He's got a full crown. I think there should be a provision. He mentioned that it's a problem with parking. There's a parking requirement, and it's the tree is don't allow him to have the required parking spaces. Can't y'all as a board, the ones that are leaving, that are staying, give an exemption or some sort of break this guy, let him keep the tree and make goodwill for his hotel. That's what I would ask. The other things I'm concerned about is all the excuses that people are cutting trees down for. You know, too close to the house, you know, and foundations, this and that. Seems like any excuse could be brought up and the tree would be removed. There's no question about, you know, questioning about, well, is it doing, how much damage is it really doing, and things like that. Also, I'm concerned about the insurance companies. I wonder, can't the city intercede somehow for homeowners that want to keep a tree that's a beautiful tree, it's a heritage tree, maybe the grandparents planted it. Here's the insurance company coming along and said, you have to cut it, you must cut it or you lose your insurance, your mortgage, all this. You know, I know they can find another company perhaps, but, you know, maybe it'll help them in some way. You know, the oaks on Government Street, they're a threat, but somehow we're covered by that, you know, and we want it there, we want to keep them. Anyway, that's my comments, and I hope the board can do something about 1401 government. Thank you.
John Gill, 3901 Queen Elizabeth Drive. I just come up here tonight to personally thank every one of y'all, alderman and the mayor, for the last 4 years. 4 years ago, you took an oath and swear in to make all your decisions in the best interest of the city. And I think you've all done that for the last 4 years. And I know it hadn't been easy. I know, serving on the board. A lot of people think it's easy. You come up here for an hour or two and you go home, but that's not true. I know, because my first 6 months back in '85, I had headaches and neck aches for the first 6 months.
How many years
was
was that?
McPherson and just go to the doctor.
Was that 4 years or 40 years, you say?
36 years. And my first 4 years is what I said. But he gave me muscle relaxers, and that's what I did. But it's not an easy job. And I want to let y'all know that y'all served with dignity and respect for the last 4 years. And I'd like to say one other thing. Patty Gaston was one of the best city clerks in the state of Mississippi. Every nickel lives, or every paper clip, you ask Patty. All right, guys, good luck, y'all.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, moving on to item 6, old business. A request for an alley vacate at 901 Bienville Boulevard on the northwest corner of Bienville Boulevard and Washington Avenue. Abutting PID numbers 60119042, 46, 48, 50, 54, 56, and 58000. Mr. Burton is appealing the Planning Commission's approval recommendation. Will, Wade, whoever's going to.
I'll just give you a brief history of this. I also direct you to the screen that shows you the location of the property in question. They're at the northwest corner of Bienville and Washington. Currently, it's used as part of a boat sales and storage and repair yard. And the request specifically is to back up that it is in use as a by the city for a sanitary sewer line. It is an active line that runs to the north. And one of the requirements that we would have, that the city would have, if this is closed, is that the developer provide a manhole and other access to that sewer line. When this came before the Planning Commission, one of their concerns, and I think also y'all's, was that the city obtained a title opinion regarding the existence, creation, how this property right-of-way came into existence. That title opinion was obtained. It's included in your packet, and we'll may want to add to that more if necessary. But when the Planning Commission did consider this, they considered the necessity to the public, the city in closing it, and they did recommend approval of the vacation of this right-of-way as shown on the screen there. And that pretty well concludes what I wanted to add.
say about this, but glad to answer questions, or maybe Will has other things to add to it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I've got more to add if I can, Mayor. I provided a memo in the packet. I hope the board saw that. This was at the planning commission level as well, related to the legal requirements under the statute the city's operating under to vacate a street or alley, which ultimately requires, it does not require signatures, that's clear in the law, from surrounding property owners. It requires two things if it's to be approved: a public good, number one, and number two, any due compensation to abutting landowners if there's any damages. And the planning commission, as you're all aware, discussed that at length. In regard to these notice and public hearing and appeal issues that I've heard discussed with the parties over the past few days, in addition to what I've already said, under the UDC, there's the table 2.2 specifically has a vacation of alley and street section. It specifically carves out, it has a line through it in that table indicating no public hearing is required. Now, we've gone above and beyond that. From the city level, there's already been 2 public hearings already at the planning commission phase, and it's certainly not required at the board meeting phase, although the planning commission, knowing that, made a separate motion. In addition to their recommendation, they made a motion to advertise for another public hearing to go before the July 1st meeting. Secondly, that coincides with Mississippi case law. Hopkins v. City of Mendenhall states that there's no controlling statutory provisions in Mississippi case law that requires a petition or public hearing prior to the closing of a public road. It's specifically referencing this statute. Additionally, Table 2.2 of the UDC calls an appeal of a vacated street or easement to the district court. So I've heard some references to a 10-day requirement. I'm not sure if they're confusing that general 10-day requirement by state statute of a final decision of a city, of this board, to the circuit court, which they can do that if they want to appeal this decision, if there's a final decision made here tonight. But there is no such requirement or a delay period for the board to hear it under the city's code or required by city law. And from my discussions, it sounds like from at least some of the parties, I'm just going to have a fundamental disagreement about that. I've discussed this with the parties. It's where there's no exact appeal procedure set out in the city's code. It's the city's common practice to pull the item from consent, as this has been done tonight, for further discussion by the board, and note it as the opposition to it. And again, I think it's important to keep in mind, number one, this is not anyone's property. This is the city's easement we're talking about. We're not talking about taking away someone else's property. The city, it's at your discretion to do it. If you do it, you have to provide those items, the public good and the due compensation, if any. But you're not required to do it. But again, it's the city's property. It's the city's easement. So we're not taking away from the burdens. We're not taking away from the developers. I know you're aware of the Planning Commission's recommendation as it relates to approval. I believe they recommended approval subject to the developer is going to provide a separate right-of-way for the Burtons to try to ease some of their concerns. And the Planning Commission thought of that as comparable due compensation and really no damages anyway. But I think the Planning Commission further cited for the public good that this area has been in title contention for a number of decades, even years, and that some finality here on this alleyway would bring sense to the title in the area and potential development that's been stalled wholeheartedly. Unless you have any questions for me, and I'm free to answer questions as they arise, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Wade. So, Mr. Burton, you want to lead off here? And so somebody's here for the developer to speak on behalf of the developer. Okay.
You want to speak first? You want me?
Well, I think Mr. Burton needs to go ahead first since he's doing the appealing.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Virgil Gillespie, 1901 24th Avenue, Gulfport, Mississippi. I am the attorney for Mr. Burton, whose LLC, Pelican Suites, owns the property right up at the top here. You can see his CPA on this It's right at the terminus of this easement. You can see that the easement does serve his property. Before I began, I had appealed this matter from the planning commission. And I had given a notice to the city, and I gave an amended notice this afternoon, and I sent it to Ms. Gaston, and I sent it to the planning commission, I sent it to Mr. Norman, I sent it to the attorney for the applicants, but I want to make this a part of the record. Also,
Is this part of the agenda, or does anyone know? If y'all can make a motion just to accept this into the record.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Blackman.
Second.
Mr. Cox, all in favor?
Right, my basic point tonight here is a matter of procedure and due process. Number one, Dan, who owns the property that's going to be affected by this vacation, was not really given any notice of this here. He didn't even know about this. Somebody just happened to call him and tell him this was going to happen. This is not due process of law. On top of it, but more importantly than that is, we have appealed this matter. Now, I might disagree about certain things, but the minimum appeal time on matters is 10 days. We still got time left for somebody else to appeal.
Where are you providing that 10 days from? And I'll let him recollect his time, just so I know.
There is nothing, your ordinances are pretty short on appealing to the planning commission. There's nothing in there about appealing to the planning commission. So the shortest period of time you have is the appeals that are provided from development matters and from the planning director. And those appeals mostly go to the zoning board of adjustments.
And what do you, my question is, where's this 10 days coming from? It's not from the city code, is it the general statute you're referencing?
No, let me point out, we're talking about section 2.7.1. Anybody who's agreed by the final development order may appeal that to the zoning board.
This is not
He
a
has
final.
30 days.
This is not a final development order, but I'll
I
let you
understand that, but I'm saying, you got quite a few appeal things in here. An appeal from the planning director, he said 10 days. I'm just saying that, and again, if you're saying there's nothing in the code, then there's nothing in the code to allow us an appeal. There's another big due process issue that we want to litigate. An appeal, as y'all know, the record in these matters is made down at the planning commission. There's not going to be a record made here tonight.
I'm sure there will be.
Sir?
Sure, we're in the record as we speak. I don't understand.
The record, and I have case law to back me up on this, in any of these matters is made at the planning commission. They're the ones that make the recommendation. You should be entitled to hear or see what they did, and that's what my appeal asked you to do. So what I'm asking y'all to do is to postpone this until such time as you get the record from the planning commission up to where your decision will be based on the same thing the planning commission's decision was made on. Okay. Placing this matter on the agenda under old business. I don't understand how this could be old business. I know y'all heard this once before on a procedural matter. This isn't old business. I don't understand that. In the event, y'all do hear this, I will say that there was not adequate proof made before the planning commission that this was for the public good. Your attorney has made some decisions about it. He knows the cases that say that the vacation has to be for the public good, not for the benefit of the person that wants to make the application, the vacation. Furthermore, I'd like to quote to you Ocean Springs Unified Development Code, Section 5.2.1, that provides alleys shall be dedicated along the rear of all commercial and industrial lots, unless, in the opinion of the Planning Commission, such alleys are unnecessary. No such decision was made by the Planning Commission. That wasn't before them. The Planning Commission did not make that.
You're talking about section 5.2.1 of the UDC, that's for new subdivision, commercial subdivision regulations, which this is not. This is not part of a subdivision at all.
I understand what I'm trying to say is that your code says that commercial businesses ought to have an alley behind them. That's the point I'm trying to make. And you're taking that alley away. We think this matter should wait until we have an appeal perfected. We still have somebody out there that could make an appeal. So we ask you, well, I ask you not to vote on this tonight, but to wait until the appeal is perfected and the record from the Planning Commission is before you, where you can make an informed decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Virgil. Opposite side here.
Thank you, David Wheeler, 185 Main Street, Biloxi, representing the applicant in this matter. First, I think this matters before you under old business because it was before you previously, and you sent it back down to the Planning Commission for a subsequent public hearing after the information of the title opinion was provided to the city, as well as a report of the engineer dealing with the sewer, and that's been provided to you, and I think that's part of the record that's in front of you now from the Planning Commission from last week's hearing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think the entire Planning Commission record is on.
And as I understand the city procedure, this hearing is part of the record. If they do decide to appeal what's said and introduced into evidence during this hearing will be part of the record on appeal as well. So the record is not just limited to Planning Commission, but it includes what you all decide, what you debate, what you talk about in this hearing. As far as the appeal process, I think the city attorney's already advised you that y'all set the agenda and you've set this down for an appeal hearing because Mr. Burton filed his notice of appeal. As far as the city's ability to vacate this alley, not only is there statutory authority, but there's case law that allows the city to determine that this alley has been abandoned by the city. Actually, that's a decision that the city made in 2009 when they abandoned the east-west portion of this alley that ran over to Church Street. The city Board of Aldermen determined at that time that the alley had been abandoned by the city due to complete, continuous, unexplained non-use of the alley by the general public for a period exceeding 10 years, and that the city had not maintained the alleyway, and this is in 2009, for a period in excess of 20 years. Now, again in 2020, the Board of Aldermen heard on that particular portion of the vacation again, because the resolution wasn't recorded. They again decided and determined that the alley had been abandoned, that there had been a general public that non-used it for a period of 10 years, and that the city hadn't maintained it for more than 20 years. The Supreme Court of Mississippi decided in 1988 that the common law abandonment theory holds that protracted non-use for an extended period of time is sufficient in law to create a presumption of abandonment, and that when a city closes an alley under a theory of abandonment, like we're asking you to do here, Section 2137(7) that requires due compensation to be paid doesn't apply because it's abandoned, and the result of the abandonment is the adjoining landowners on both sides of the alley get title to that land to the center line of the alley, and that's their compensation. You can see from the aerial that's in your packet
There's trees growing, there's buildings, there's boats. This alley hadn't been used for probably 50 years, other than by the boatyard man. City abandoned it, city doesn't maintain it. Title reverts to the adjoining landowners, so they're not losing anything. Mr. Burton is not losing access because he doesn't have access, he can't use it. When you get down to Highway 90, there's a curve for the highway that covers a little bit more than half of where this alley hits Highway 90. So you can't access it. So there's been no access, there's been no damage. Even if you go under the code section that requires due compensation if there's any damage, there's no damage because he's not losing anything. He doesn't have any access to it now. Never has. The planning commission found that it would be in the public good to vacate the alley. It removes vacant property. It allows for improvements to be built and improvements to be added to the tax rolls. It allows for the development of the property, which will create jobs, which will increase revenue to the city. It eliminates the city's liabilities issues for maintaining the alley, liabilities for what might happen on the alley. It cleans up, frankly, an eyesore that's at the one of the prime corners entering Ocean Springs. It gets rid of something that hadn't been developed, has been on the market for 20 years. The title opinion that was mentioned, they found that this alley had not been formally dedicated. It was impliedly dedicated to the city in 1877 by the Coxes, who owned all this large tract of land and deeded property out. A couple of the descriptions described it as bounding on the east or the west by an alley. Maybe in 1877, public use, but it hadn't been used for the last 50 years. The title opinion also found that the city hadn't maintained the alley for over 20 years, and that there had been complete continued non-use of the alley by the public for over 20 years. So all of that gives you the basis for determining that the alley should be vacated because of abandonment by the city, because of non-use by the public, and even going under the statute, finding that there's no just compensation due because there's no damages. There's an alley that abuts a portion of Mr. Burton's property that he can't use, doesn't provide any access whatsoever, and never has. So,
David, if I, just so I'm clear, just so the board's clear, is the developer still offering the right of way? Should they choose a vacate?
Yes.
Yep. That's what we offered at the planning commission. We said vacate it subject to us providing an easement to the Burtons for access, which is what they said at the planning commission the first time and the second time that they were concerned about access. Last planning commission, they started talking about 18-wheelers. You can't provide a highway for 18-wheelers to turn around or exit their property, but we can certainly provide them an easement. And we're still willing to do that. And even if you determine that you go under the statute that requires due compensation in the event there's damage, that would constitute some compensation because they have an easement over someone else's property. We would ask you to follow the recommendation of the planning commission and approve the vacation of the alley. Any other questions? I can answer them, or the representative of the alderman.
I do have a question for you. With the proposed access that you're offering the landowner, can that be done in a way to where both parties have to agree before that access can be withdrawn? Can it be recorded in that manner to where, say, 6 months down the road, you decide you don't want to give him access and you can take it away? Is that?
I'll let him answer, but I think that was discussed at the planning commission where the Burtons wanted to tie it to the specific parcel rather than themselves, which I think is the way the law works anyway, but I'll let.
And I know that's between you two. don't have anything to do with
Right,
that.
and I think the way the planning commission approved it was vacating the alley on the condition that an access, ingress egress easement be provided to the person. They didn't put a negotiated or time period or anything like that. It's always better to have an agreement like, I know in a big development like Walmart, where they have different out parcels, they have reciprocal easement agreements that everyone executes and records. You know, if the city wants to require that type of agreement as part of the vacation of the alley, you know, we can do that. It's just a question of, you know, Mr. Burton at the last planning commission meeting said he didn't want to sign anything because he didn't want to have any liability. So, I mean, you know, if you require us to have a written agreement with the Burtons on the access easement and he won't sign anything, then we have to have some mechanism that the city wants to provide an access. You know, if you want to provide an easement to the west of Church Avenue or the north end of the property, that's, you know, that's totally up to what the Board of Aldermen want to decide.
I would definitely like to see y'all come to an agreement before we vacate this alleyway. That's something, if you, I don't know if you want to recognize, let him speak.
Frankly, we've been trying to do that since April, but it hadn't come to fruition. And I don't know that really is gonna, if it's up to parties agreeing and entering a written agreement. I'll let the developer talk about that.
Yes, sir. You can speak, yeah. And then we're gonna give you an opportunity.
Yeah.
So, in just a second. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna keep it real clean because I've known David a long time, and some of this information that y'all have been provided is just not true, okay? There's 50,000 cars that go in front of this building on a daily basis. Everybody that was been in this room tonight has talked about traffic. MLK's got about 6,000 or 7,000 cars. There's 50,000 cars that go there, okay? I have simply stated, and everybody brings up, and I think, you know, the attacks on me, I think you should give me a little bit of latitude, the attacks that have been made against me, okay? I'm probably one of the most pro-developer CPAs on the Gulf Coast. My record is impeccable as far as developments. I'm very much pro-development, okay? But whenever I have somebody sitting here trying to actually make me take on additional liability, you can see the access road right here, and I think this is very clear. I would have to have people, and I don't care if it's a tiddlywink shop, I don't care if it's a candy shop, I don't care if it's a CPA shop, I don't care what it is, okay? But whoever's in that building right there, no matter who it is, they've got to go with their proposed easement, they have to go across someone else's property, dodging pedestrian and vehicular traffic to then get to a public access point. Okay, I have simply stated from the beginning, I've been very clear on this from the beginning, I don't need the money. Okay, I'm not here for a money grab. I mean, I know that's hard to believe, but I'm not. I just simply want to be put back in the position I am in currently so that I can protect my property rights as well as my investment. I don't think anybody on this council would do anything different than that. I've simply asked them for a dedicated access point that I can get my people onto a public roadway without having to go through somebody else's property.
Mr. Burton, let me ask you a question. What is changing from the people coming on and off of your property with this development?
Well, MDOT, I think you were on the news the other night about MDOT, about, you know, they're going to be doing additional stuff on Washington Avenue. Brad White's going to be continuing to do stuff with the MDOT. I know you know what the traffic looks like coming across there. When I bought that property, Mayor, when I bought that property, I'm pretty skilled on my ability to spot locations and stuff like that over my career. I actually saw this property and I saw that there was an access point. Okay, and it was not, and both those access points were, that Church Street was not vacated properly. Okay, they can say what they want to, but if I challenged it in court, it was not vacated properly. Okay, because there's not notice given to all the abutting property owners. But I'm not even going there with that. Okay, what I'm simply trying to tell you is there's going to continue to be an increased traffic. I'm hoping that they will put a sidewalk in front of my building so that you can have people walk to the bridge instead of dodging traffic from Washington Avenue all the way to the bridge. That would be great. I know Ray Lozana and Buck Lozana are very much in favor of that, because you would actually bring traffic down to Aunt Jenny's, that people could just walk down there and not have to fear for their life, okay?
That is part of the MDOT.
That is wonderful.
That's part of the MDOT program.
That is great for the city of Ocean Springs.
It is.
Okay, and so I'm simply asking, Mayor, I'm simply just asking that I not have to take on additional liability for people that trying to come in and out. And I'd like to have an access point so that as traffic continues to go, I have one access point. I know Mr. Scruggs got up here tonight and says, oh, well, you can come in on 8 different directions in the city and stuff. You don't have to go down MLK. Okay, I have one access point. Okay, there's a second access point that's been in existence since 1872. Okay, the reason it was put there is because there was going to be future growth of this city. Now, I understand people were on horse and wagons back then. I get that. Things have changed. Okay, there's going to be continued growth of the city of Ocean Springs. I sure hope there's growth for the city of Ocean Springs. Okay, I'm a big proponent for growth, but I would like you not to block me and trap me and basically impair my property when I don't have a dedicated access point to get out onto the property. And that's simply all I'm asking. I'm not coming here trying to tell you, hey, I want you to give me some money. I'm not interested in that. Okay, I'll pay my taxes. I don't want the city to take on additional responsibilities, okay? It came up as far as the alley goes. I mean, I would have went and mowed the grass over there, but it's not my grass. It's the city's grass. You want me to pave the road to get on to, I'll call Brad White up at MDOT and get the curb cut. I'll do that.
Okay.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Westlake Village, California, 91361. I'm also the applicant. Tonight I'd like to talk about private benefits versus public benefits and easements. As David had mentioned, the alley vacated, the abutting owners on each side get half the alley. That's a private benefit to those people. The public benefits are many. The city does not have to maintain it, insure it, or house, and it certainly reduces their liability on that property. We no longer have to contemplate improving it at a cost of $100,000 to $200,000. The city shares in 18.5% of the state sales tax of 7% for whoever goes there. I estimate those sales to be between 4 and 8 million, and that would represent $52,000 to $104,000 per year based on the sales tax. The city and the school district share 2/3 of the property tax on whatever's developed. I estimate a reasonable cost of that to be somewhere between 4 and 5 million, but let's say it's 4 million. That's another $31,000 per year that the city and the school district would share. And I understand the city's school districts have been underfunded for a number of years. So that's $83,000 to $135,000 in benefits per year with a new development. So if you want to look at a public good, that's one. Also, a new tenant will provide jobs to people in Ocean Springs. By itself, that alley that's currently there, it doesn't have much value. It's only 21 feet wide. You can't develop it. It only has value to the northern property owners if someone pays to build the road. The public benefits, in my opinion, are more than a fair trade for the private benefits. Easement agreements or reciprocal easement agreements between adjacent owners and commercial properties are very common. Just about every Walmart center that has outlots or pads has reciprocal easement agreements between the different owners. I've developed properties with Walmart. I've also developed easement agreements with churches. The agreements can cover access, common area maintenance, parking, utilities, insurance, and uses. The agreements we have proposed to the Burtons covers only access on our proposed property and insurance. We have no desire for reciprocal access through their property. They could put a fence up there and a gate. It's fine. We don't want to go on their property. The agreement would burden our property, not theirs. We are the grantor of the easement, and they would be the grantee. The easement runs with the land on our proposed property and is recorded. Finally, when you consider the Burton statements, please note the context. They have an 800 square foot accounting office. The car traffic is negligible. The chance of that building increasing in size is remote. They have a 6,098 square foot lot, and based on what I've developed in my career, which is 2 million square feet of retail, maybe they can get 23 to 25% at the most, so they can go to 1,500 square feet. That's another 700 feet from what they have. Dan had mentioned liability. Well, that's what insurance is for. I'm sure he has casualty insurance on his property, and he probably has liability. For a few $100s more, you can get liability insurance that covers just the property, people coming out of his property. I frankly prefer to see him have a gate there so that nobody from our property can go into his. We set them easement agreements with access to Bienville on April 10th, 15th, 29th, and May 19th. We've also called them many times. They have not responded to any of our requests to discuss the property. We can't have engagement with ourselves. We need to talk to them if they want to. All these easement agreements had traffic going down to Bienville, which is what Melissa Burton said she wanted on April 8th. Based on the prior testimony, it would appear that the Burtons only want a private expressway from their property to Bienville, paid for by the city of Ocean Springs. I think the choice is clear. I request you approve the vacation of the alley so that surrounding properties can be developed and allowed use for the zoning requirements, and the city can start enjoying the tax benefits. This approval will also still allow the Burtons to use our access infrastructure with an access agreement. We're willing to do at any time. Thank you, and if you have any questions.
Okay. Is there anyone here who would like to speak for or against? Thank you, sir. If we have any more, we'll get with you.
Ellen Hall, Ward 2. At the meeting this was first brought up in a couple of planning commission meetings ago, I believe Will mentioned that the property owners all had to agree and they weren't in agreement and that he just let everybody.
I did not say that.
Okay, I'm just saying, I thought that's what he said. And then the next meeting, he clarified that the law is not that. The law is that each abutting landowner has to have due compensation if there's damages, right? At that board meeting, the zoning board meeting, they made a decision that there wasn't any damages. And with no data, no study, no assessment, although this developer comes up here with all this information, which is very impressive, yet the zoning commission just decided he has no damages due because he's not currently using it. But the issue is when he bought that property, those were what he thought it was, and it is today, right now. So if he wanted to sell that property in the future, there was an easement there. There was an opportunity for someone to develop that or whatever. If he goes with this agreement, which would be great if they did that, it's still a change in the character of the land. And I'm speaking as a layperson resident, not as an attorney, not giving you a legal opinion. But just from what I read, it says that the Mississippi governing authority can make that decision, but not without first compensating the abutting landowners for any damages they sustain. How do you, as a commissioning of the zone, the planning commission, just make that decision without any due process or whatever? And then especially then coupled with the fact that he thought it was going to be a later date. And the planning commission meeting that we had last time was when I first learned that abutting landowners were supposed to be compensated, that they didn't have to have permission. So they really didn't get a chance to do that kind of study to say, hey, my future use of this is worth X amount of money. And get somebody that knows real estate to be able to do that. I don't think that the people on the planning commission have that capacity, nor did they do that other than on the back of a piece of paper right then and just say, he's not having any damages, so we vote yes, let's just vacate it. I think you're really cutting short his due process of being able to go through that. And I think I would recommend that you would just let them go back and assess that and come back with data and you make an educated decision, or allow them to go through mediation of some sort and try to come up with a decision, because maybe they can. But for this governing board to just decide that, to me, is an injustice. And saying that the public good is that you won't have to maintain it as a city anymore. I would love several pieces of property that you now own, and I will say, if you give it to me, you don't have to take care of it anymore, and it would be for the public good, I promise. And I don't think that makes sense. I think that's a terrible argument, but that's just my opinion as a person. Thank you.
Mitch Owen. I'm speaking on behalf of Angela Taylor, Crystal Lemon, and Sherry Owen. Would you mind bringing up the first line you had, please? The three ladies I just named are all the owners of the abutting property on each side of the yellow petition vacated area. The boatyard, the corner lot, and the lot above it. They have the most access points and are all in agreement with this vacation. I agree with Will. I haven't done one in about 15 years, and I kind of worked on one about 5 years ago. It was me. Since this is all city-owned land, I would have petitioned the Chancery Court, named the city as a defendant with the county and other utility authorities, and gone that route, because it's not subject to a public hearing. But this is the route they went, so it's before you today. The ladies might want to speak. They all said they're nervous, so they asked me to speak. I'm an attorney. I found out about this 3 o'clock this afternoon, and so I do not have a bunch of case law to present y'all. But from my memory, everything Will previously stated to this board is accurate. This lot, as long as Sherry Owens owned it and the abutting property owners have owned it, there has been no access point. It has been essentially been a vacant easement or alleyway used for utilities, which the developer has already agreed to make an access way or assist the city with making sure those utilities are available to the city. To deny this, ultimately, the only way this condition would change for this property would for the city to go in and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop a streetway up to a 800 square foot building of a CPA firm, which is not even in comparison to the other boat storage use. They have the most to lose by denying this vacation. There's no damages. When he bought this, he knew he had no access. Nobody's going to come in and buy an 800 square foot building and spend a couple $100,000 to develop a vacated alleyway without the city's help. Sherry Owen, for example, has signed a document with the Ocean Springs Police Department because they have vagrants, people parking on this property at night doing illegal things. And they've asked her permission to come on there and take these people off. So it's becoming a nuisance to the city, this area. At the end of the day, and like I said, I'm not trying to keep a bunch of time. I just want to speak on behalf of these ladies because they are all in agreement with this vacation. This is city-owned property. It's ultimately your decision alone. There's no damages to the Burton building. They can make, well, you know, one day, well, as council said over there, this property's been abandoned by the city. I think that's a good legal basis to pursue this through litigation, which is even going to cost the city further funds, cost Mr. Burton funds, and the developer certain funds. Right now, the corner lot is so small, I think if you deny this vacation for a development, you're going to have other citizens come in here saying, well, what else can go on this property? It's too small, there's not enough parking, like we've heard already. It makes sense. There's already been a portion vacated. The developer, in my opinion, from what I've seen over the years, is going above and beyond what he would be required to do in other vacations on city-owned property. Most cities and most developers, in my experience, would say, look, he's never had access to his property. He doesn't need it now. He has no damages. It's not hurting his business. So why would we go pay for that? But this developer's offering to do that. I think that's a kind gesture that the city should take into consideration. So at this point, we would ask that the city, on behalf of the landowners I'm speaking for, vote yes for this vacation.
All right. I think we've heard enough here.
Speak to Will real quick in the back. I'd like to speak to Will in the back real quick, if you don't mind.
Is that legal?
Attorney.
Oh, well, you know, you're talking about not executive session.
No, I just,
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Melissa Burton. I'm also one of the owners of the LLC that owns the 800 square foot CPA firm. I am not going to argue the merits of this case because I think there's so much misinformation, and that was part of the point that you guys don't have the complete record of what was discussed at the planning commission because you don't have the transcripts. You don't have the testimony. You don't know what was said. So being misquoted is very disturbing. But what I sent over to all of you is I just want to talk about the actual process according to the statute, the appeal process that's required by the City of Ocean Springs code, because apparently there's some confusion. I just want to make clear, so the front page is just a flow chart of how the appeals process is supposed to work. The pages behind it are the actual code. It's the actual code for the City of Ocean Springs. So under UDC 2.44 that discusses the vacation of a street easement or plat, it's supposed to start with the applicant who files their application for vacation. It goes to the planning director. The planning director is supposed to review the application for completeness. Once the planning director reviews the application for completeness, if it's okay, then the planning director then makes a recommendation of whether or not to approve or deny the application. If you don't agree with the planning director's completeness decision, you appeal that. That's what the red arrows are. The red arrows are appeals. You appeal that to the planning commission. Once the planning director makes a recommendation, he makes the recommendation to the planning commission. If you don't agree with the planning director's decision, then you appeal that to the Zoning and Adjustments Board. And I've given you the code section, the UDC code from the City of Ocean Springs code of where it says these are the places you appeal to. They're in the pages that follow. Once it goes to the planning commission makes a recommendation. If you're okay with that, it goes to the Board of Aldermen. If you don't like the planning commission's decision, you can appeal that. But you also appeal that to the Board of Aldermen, which doesn't really make any sense. That's just one way that's discussed in the statute. The statute, as Mr. Norman brought up, if you look at table 2.2, which is in the information I gave you, I think it's actually labeled page 38. Table 2.2 says that the application goes to the planning director for the completeness review, same process there. The planning director is supposed to make a recommendation directly to the Board of Aldermen, not the planning commission. Table 2.2 very clearly says that the recommendation comes from the planning director, not the planning commission. Also, the statutes say if you disagree with the planning director's decision, you appeal that to the Zoning and Adjustments Board. And those appeal processes are laid out in two different places, section 2.7 and 2.17. 2.7 allows a 30-day window to file an appeal. 217 allows 10 days. And like Dan said before, we haven't hit 10 days yet. As far as the appeal to the Board of Aldermen, that kind of doesn't make sense because if you agree with it, it goes to the Board of Aldermen, and then if you don't agree with it, you appeal to the Board of Aldermen. That situation is where the statute lacks information. The statute does not speak to what the appeals process is when you are appealing to the Board of Aldermen. And unlike what you've heard, when the statute doesn't speak to that situation, we don't just go by, oh, well, this is what we've already done. This is what we've done in the past. I'm going to refer to the statute. And if the Board of Aldermen doesn't have a procedural process in its statute to handle an appeal, it would have to defer to the appeals process laid out elsewhere in statute, which requires either a 10-day window or a 30-day window. So I know there's been a lot of confusion over where we stand in the appeal process. This is it. And I'm not gonna just misquote the law. I'm actually giving it to you that you can read. I'm not gonna just make it up. Thank you.
Okay, briefly, David, briefly. We're coming down, wrapping this up.
Yeah, I just want to point out two things on this handout. 2.44 deals with establishing the process for proving the elimination of a plat. Our opinion says this property has never been platted. It never has been. It's not part of the map of plat of the city of Ocean Springs. So this procedure doesn't apply. The table 2.2 is for a development review, process overview. We're not at that stage yet.
So, at this point, I think, if anybody has any questions from the board, I'll call for a closure on this public hearing.
It's not a public hearing. It's just all business.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I want to hear some comments from the board. Anybody got any comments about what's been said?
I mean, it's been kicked around a lot. I mean, it went to the planning commission first, and then the applicant for the property appeal that came to us, Mr. Cox, asked for it to go back to planning because that's what planning wished. It's my understanding, went back to planning listened to it, planning gave a unanimous vote that they felt like it should be passed. They passed that, and then they passed another motion to have a public hearing, which the planning commission does not have the authority to set the agenda for the Board of Aldermen, so that's why we're here tonight. So they had two vacations that were heard on the same night, and this one was the only one that they chose to do something different with. The other one just went up with the process and is now in the consent agenda like we've always had when we vacated properties. I don't know how many we've vacated since I've been in office for the last 8 years, but I can tell you the ones that we have vacated look very nice. It's tightened up the property lines, it's put the property back on the tax rolls. So I just don't know how much more we can vet this. I mean, it went back to the planning commission because we needed a title opinion. So the title opinion took 2 weeks. It was vetted very carefully. The attorney that did it went through it, and it's been determined that the city had never platted the property. It's been it's more than 20 years, and it really has no public benefit. I've had a lot of phone calls from vagrants that were there. There's a portal that's sitting at the boatyard in the front yard that is an attraction for vagrants to go there. So that's where we are.
I view this thing as 21 feet wide easement. 21 feet is of limited value to anybody as far as a street or anything of that nature. Excuse me, folks, I've got a summer coat. You've got a 21-foot side easement. What do you do with that? Okay? It's never been used. Never been used. Best I can tell. What are y'all telling me? We leave it there and we've degraded the value of two pieces of property, right and left, okay, that are on Washington. That piece of property for the public good should be developed. I'm of the opinion that we should go ahead and accept the request that the planning commission made.
Make a motion.
Yeah, let me make one statement before you make that, Ken. The question I did go back and ask Will, because I'm not totally sure on the legality of doing this or even talking about it, but have y'all looked at doing a public access from Washington and Church and deeding that as a city public access rather than a private easement? Has that been discussed amongst anybody? And would that be something that might help solve this?
any tenant wants to go there needs to have operational control of the property. If it's a public street, they don't have that. That's why we wanted to access the agreement, so that we can talk about no parking. We can't do that on a public street, so we don't want parking on a public street. We would need an easement that has rules and regulations. So that wouldn't be acceptable.
A public street right now is what, 24 feet?
Oh,
At least 24 feet.
Normally when we do drive aisles, they're 25 feet now.
Yeah.
And that's what they've got offered here, correct?
But not dedicated.
And I was kind of questioning, why is that not right on the property line? You just chose not to put it on the access road that you offered. It's kind of set down from the property line instead of right on the property.
Landscape requirements in the city.
Okay.
All right.
It could, I know, go back to the.
That's what it is
on the property line. We're gonna use the driveway access point on the north, most likely, and has to do with landscape setbacks. Washington's an MDOT road as well as Bienville, so we need MDOT's approval. There's a no-build area to the right of the easement going up Bienville, so we want to move that to the west. They want us to move that to the west. So partly the northern property line has to do with the existing curb cuts, and partly landscape and aesthetic concerns.
Thank you. Ken, do you want to make a motion?
Anybody else want to comment? I'm going to make a motion, Mayor, that we, this board approve the planning commission's to vacate the alley for 901 Bienville, northwest corner of Bienville Boulevard and Washington Avenue, abutting PIDN 601190540.000. Okay, 601.
Just say 46.
46.
48.
48. Excuse me, no, that's 6A, Mayor. 6A.
48.
The two digits before the decimal.
64842.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yes, 56, 58, 46, 42, 48, and 50. That's my motion.
You got 54?
54.
That was the first one I read.
Okay, so to clarify that, it's 60119042, 46, 48, 50, 54, 56, and 58.00.
Did I miss one?
And Ken, is that to follow the recommendation of the planning commission and including a proposed right-of-way access as well? The easement.
The easement that he's proposed here.
The easement that the owner.
Right, your motion doesn't follow the planning commission, is that right?
Yes.
Planning commission's recommendation.
Correct, that's correct.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Papani.
Second.
Second by Mr. Arthemont. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we got 5 ayes and 2 nays. Motion carries. Item under 6, old business, item B, 911 commission appointment. Is there a motion to appoint Police Chief Stephen Dye?
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry, I was distracted by the crowd noise. Who made the motion? Mike Gippy made a motion, Blackman second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. New business. Professional services agreement, interim city attorney discussion. Is there a motion to authorize the execution of professional services agreement with David N. Harris, Jr., Law Firm, PLLC, to serve as interim city attorney?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to address this, and I did request this to go on the agenda tonight, just so that the new administration coming in July 1 has legal representation moving forward, and he can go to work now with our legal service now and be ready, get him up to speed for us. So
In 2 weeks.
I'd like to make that motion that we authorize the mayor to execute professional services agreement with David
Motion.
N. Harris Jr. Law Firm.
Motion by Mr. Cox, second by Mr. Wade. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, request a certificate of appropriateness, COA, to demolish an existing house at 208 Washington Avenue. HPC recommends denial. Applicant appealing, planning commission HPC denial recommendation. Wade?
Bring that. That's not, thank you. This is a request for a certificate of appropriateness to demolish the existing house there at 208 Washington. It has come to you with a recommendation of denial from the Historic Preservation Commission. When they considered this, they discussed at length the applicant, the conditions of the house, and what they felt would be necessary, in their opinion, to approve the demolition. They did not feel that the information provided to them regarding the structural condition of the house was sufficient to warrant the demolition based on the criteria in the Unified Development Code. For that reason, they did make a recommendation for denial of the certificate of appropriateness to deny the house, demolish the house, excuse me. I think I'll be glad to answer a question you might have. I don't think we did have the folks from the Historic Preservation Commission in the audience, but you wanted to ask questions of them, more details of the meeting, or, but the applicant presented his position. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Wade?
Yeah, just real quick, Wade, I saw the information in our packet. I saw no photos, I saw no report from pest control expert. I saw nothing substantiating the damage in the report. Was that included or was it not included?
There was some information, some photos, and a report that was presented to the Historic Commission last night at its meeting. Unfortunately, we did not have the opportunity to include all that in the packet presented to you today, so because of time constraints. But that was discussed by the HCC last night.
Okay, well, that's
Drawing it is a report.
okay. Mr. Bordees?
Mayor, Board of Alderman, it's apparent that you don't have all the information. We had photographs last night, we had an expert opinion from a group out of Jackson concerning the structural problems with the home and the presence of mold in the home. But tonight we hear, as Mr. Joe here apparently was on my property and had a chance to look at it himself. The one thing I agree with what he said is you are enforcing against the citizens your rules, regulation, and UDC provisions. And he's asking that, I guess, the governmental entities be treated the same way. So I'm going to ask you at the conclusion of my presentation to enforce the UDC code. But to get there, I want to go through the procedural history. This home that I purchased right here, and I thought Mr. Gibson was talking about a brown home earlier that needed to be destroyed. I thought it would be mine, but here it is. This is mine. I acquired it from the first secretary I ever had when I moved to Ocean Springs almost 40 years ago. She and her husband passed away, and one of her children ended up with the home, and I acquired that home from them. Once we got the home, initially the termite report made reference to the substantial amount of moisture under the home and fire and termite damage under the home. So I went to Mr. Morgan, and his office is very helpful. They guided me in filing an application and paying my fee to the city, and advised me that the first meeting would be the May meeting of the committee. So I appeared on May 1st, for that meeting, and no one else appeared. So about 20 minutes after 6, I started going back to my office to check, and apparently sometime after I left the office, a message was left there for me that the meeting had been canceled, that they could not get enough members to meet. So I waited a few days, and we're so May 19th, we'll have a meeting on May 19th in this very room. So we came, May 19th, and I presented what I had at the time. And you should have those documents. And it showed the termite report. It showed where floors in the house had fallen through and had been patched up with plywood. It showed the garage in Alderman building with a tree on it. And it also showed that 10 companies had denied insurance coverage to us because of the condition of the home. So that was presented on the 19th. The committee heard us, looked at the information, and indicated that they wanted to have more information about the presence of mold and the structural failings of the home. And they said, come on back to our June meeting. We have a regular scheduled June meeting. I think that was on the 5th. And we'll see you there and we'll talk more. So what we do, we show up on June 5th for the second scheduled meeting of the committee. And 2 members show up on that day. I think 2, maybe a third wandered in. So we sat around, well, maybe 3. They couldn't make a quorum that night. So after about 30 minutes, we went away. And again, told we'll have a meeting later and we can come back and talk about it. Sometime later, we would notice that it was going to be on the 16th, which was last night. So we appeared last night, and we provided from Mid-South Solutions in Jackson, Mississippi, a report. And I don't know if you have that report or not. If you do not, I'll pass it around to you. You can all have one. But they did a day-long inspection of the home and concluded that there were extremely high moisture levels causing substantial organic growth on the wood surfaces and weakening the integrity of the wood. They also referenced the old termite damage, and they made reference to the fact that several areas of the foundation lacked adequate stabilization. And we left our photographs with the committee last night. But if you take a look at those, you will see what is found in this report, that there are no footings under any of the support piers on the house. Most have sunk, and they don't even touch the bottom of the house. There's just a gap in between. Others, they're bricks, and they're missing about half the bricks. So they kind of stagger, kind of like playing Jenga. If you move one, the whole house might fall. So we presented this last night to the committee, and the committee again decided that they needed more information, and as a result, we should now hire a structural engineer to go out and pay thousands and thousands of more dollars to give an assessment of the condition of the home. We asked to appeal, and thankfully Mr. Morgan and his staff were able to get us before this body tonight. So I started by saying the conclusion is going to be a request to follow the UDC code. And looking at it from the beginning, my opinion was, we need to look at the general factors that the committee is to consider. And what I see is your UDC being friendly to the taxpayer. It's supposed to be a route that allows you to get there and get a decision very quickly. Because why? It costs your taxpayers thousands of dollars to have this property or any property in downtown Ocean Springs, or within the city limits of Ocean Springs. That's number one. Number two, one of the factors is to afford the owner a legitimate right to earn a reasonable return from his investment. not to spend 10 times the amount to fix the problems with the structure. I'm calling your attention to 2.296A, subparagraph 2. And it talks about the application process. It says the application shall be heard at the regularly scheduled meeting of HPC. That did not happen. Nobody showed up at the regularly scheduled meeting. It then says, if no such meeting is scheduled, the chairman or vice chairman shall set a time and date which shall be not later than 10 working days after filing an application or a hearing by the commission. That wasn't done. May 1st, the next time we got there was May 19th, 19 days later. So finally, it says here, if no action is taken by the commission prior to the 10-day working deadline, the application is automatically approved. It doesn't leave any room. It doesn't say you may call a meeting 19 days later, you may tell them to come to the next meeting and you're not going to be there to have a meeting then and come back later. It says it is approved. So based upon the information we have provided concerning the presence, substantial presence of mold growth and the lack of stability in the foundation, we ask you to authorize the demolition of this property and allow us to construct a home that we went out and had an architect design. And when we went out to get it designed, we didn't just build the house we want. We looked at the property to the north of ours, and we found Dr. Leake's home, and we went to the south, and we saw former Mayor Moran's house. Both of those have shutters on the front with a front porch. And that is the design that we picked and had an architect draw up. So it is going to be in keeping with every house down Washington Avenue, starting on Calhoun. All of them are going to look alike. There'll be a front porch with windows across the front. And you can go down the street and look all the way down. Every one of them looks like that. And so we're trying to keep the property where it's uniform to all of the surrounding properties. We did submit a copy of our plans. It was requested. We submitted it to the committee for the first meeting. I don't think much time was spent on that. But it is a requirement and a factor to be considered when a decision is being made. So on behalf of my wife, April, she's here with me tonight. She's the joint owner of the property. We ask that you overturn the decision of the committee and allow us to proceed with construction of this property so we can move forward with acquiring a place for us to live.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone from the Planning Commission, of HPC here that wants to speak?
Hi, I'm Maya Monroe. I'm the chairwoman for the HPC. First and foremost, when we first met with them, we had told them that we did not have any adequate information in regards to the structural sound of the building, and we told them in the first meeting when we met with them that we needed a structural architect to come back with the information telling us. And instead he came back with information about maybe perhaps there might be mold, that the person that he got could not say for sure that there was because he's not legally allowed to. And the information's very vague. This house is 135 years old. It's well known. It's on Jackson Avenue. It's one of the houses that most people recognize immediately. And as a historical...
On Washington.
I'm sorry, Washington. So it's very well known. The other factor I would like to mention is that they've given us designs for the house that they want to build. And as he stated, that they had gotten ideas from the houses along the street. One of the main things about Ocean Springs and the historical district is that we do not have cookie cutter homes. And while the house is beautiful that they want to build, the idea of having cookie cutter homes on Jackson is not really, Washington, is not aesthetically what we want for our historical district. I would ask that you would, as we had suggested, tell them that we need a structural engineer so that we can have the information that this house is not able to be fixed. When you buy a historical home, you're buying a historical home with problems. We've had people have to raise their house and fix their footing and all of that without destroying the house. Unfortunately, you buy a historical home for the love of the history, not for the opportunity to change it. So I would hope that you would consider what we have and ask them that we need a structural engineer to let us know if the building can be salvaged.
All right, anybody have any questions for anybody? Anybody want to act on this? Approve, deny, table, whatever you want to do.
I'd make a comment, Voorhees. I appreciate the drawings you've drawn up for a new home. It is beautiful. I did look at them. But this being a 130-year-old home, I do have to back this, what the HPC said. And I'd like to prove that the house cannot be repaired within reason before we act on removal.
My response is that you didn't have a meeting, as your UDC says. That's a violation. And there's no leeway, there's no discretion. It says the application shall be approved. It is approved. You'll take action, it is approved. She didn't say anything about that, but I think Mr. Morgan can confirm everything I said is accurate. You got a committee out there that had 2 regularly scheduled meetings. Couldn't do enough to have a meeting. Here we are now.
That is a recommending body.
It is a recommending body. But it says it is approved.
But sir, you didn't even meet the requirements of having a structural engineer come out of the meeting.
It doesn't matter, you have a meeting. You gotta have a meeting. You can't just put the citizens.
Well,
Okay.
well, so I have all the historical districts, and we've always had to have something from an architect or an engineer that said that the house is in the condition it's in. So my concern is that everybody that's been through this process, what does that look like for us to pass something like that without getting that particular document? Because I look at termite reports every day, and I can appreciate what that report looks like, because it's obviously bad, as far as the X's that are on there. And Bonnie was right about the mold. I mean, you can call organic growth for what it is, but until you test it, you don't know if it's a black toxic mold like Stachybotrys and one of the other ones, or if it's just Aspergillus, Penicillium, Curvularia, Cladosporium, or whatever else is out there. So I guess my question is, what do we do?
Ricky, that's a policy decision for this board to make. The HPC did make a denial, right? So that is a recommending body. It's up to the board. I don't think any such report is required and enumerated in the ordinance, but, if that's what you want to make a motion to seek that based on.
What about Will, what he said about the ordinance stating that it shall be approved if there's no meeting?
Again, I haven't had a chance to advise the planning department on this, but he in fact accurately read the UDC. It says what it says. I think it's mentioning automatically approved as to the HPC's recommendation, that they have a recommendation of approval. Ultimately, the ordinance puts the decision on a certificate of appropriateness to the board of aldermen. So you hear the decision made.
Seems like a thing.
What's the wishes of the board here?
My wish is to hear the proof before the house is destroyed. I don't want to hear the report that states it from the engineer says it cannot be repaired. So I would like to follow the recommendation of the HPC, would be my motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Cox, and that would be to.
You want a stipulation, provide a structural report?
Yeah, that's what they recommended, they supply that before.
That was at the original.
Well,
meeting.
Yeah, that's,
Last night.
and I agree with you, Bobby, but that's kind of an open-ended, I mean, anything could be pretty much repaired if you're willing to spend the money. I mean, we need to know what the impact of the damage and the repairs. I mean, if it's 25% of the value of the home or 50%, you know, there needs to, all that also needs to be included in that report.
And I think that needs to go back to HPC and then come back to us after that.
Okay, well, that needs to probably be included in the motion then.
All right, well, that'd be my motion, that they provide what the HPC is requesting, and it goes back before them, before it comes back to us.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Cox.
Second.
Second by Mr. Impey. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, consent agenda. Does anyone have anything to pull from consent agenda?
8B. 8B.
B.
V.
Okay.
V.
B is in board. Okay.
B
V.
is in Victor.
Victor. V.
D.
Victor.
Oh, I thought it was.
And I want 8B.
B.
B.
Yeah, y'all sound like BB, what is it?
B is in boy, V is in boy.
Anything else?
All right.
Need a motion to approve the consent agenda, removing 8B and 8V.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Wade, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. In order, authorize the mayor to execute a parking garage lease agreement at 1515 Government Street.
Mayor, I know we're really trying to get this done, but after I reviewed insurance quotes yesterday, it kind of made me go back and take a second look at this lease agreement. And I do have several questions, and I'm just asking that we give us one more meeting to review this before we adopt it. I mean, just a couple of the things that I saw myself is after seeing the insurance quotes, you know, I think that the way it's stated is in this lease, we would have to insure this property at full value for 40 years. And what if we decide that we might want to one day self-insure? And it's in this lease that we're required to have that. That's stuff that I would like for us to go back and look.
I guess you'd have to self-insure that part of it.
Well, I would like to go back and look at that and have that changed possibly. I'd like for our interim attorney to review this and then bring it back to the next meeting. I know we're trying to get it done as quickly as possible because we are in limbo, but that's just some cleaning up. I'm not trying to say, no, we're not doing a lease. I just want to make sure those things are covered. Because
Wasn't there some kind of deadline for the end of June?
the insurance was very outrageous price.
Well, the insurance is going to be the insurance no matter what. It's going to be outrageous anyway. I do want to make, this is something that, you know, this board didn't start, this GCRF grant. They were awarded because of the public need for parking. The grant, they own the structure, we're in a lease, and the lease is going to cost some money. It's going to cost $1 a year for the lease, plus some insurance cost and also some manpower, cleaning, stuff like that. This building comes with about a $8.5 million to $8 million revenue annually. So that's going to give us, just in 2% money, $170,000 or to $160,000 annually. I know the insurance is around $36,000.
38 is the cheapest we've been able to find, yeah.
So, I mean, and the insurance is going to be the insurance. I mean,
There's also percentages that kind of, I have questions too.
Well, we got the owner here, and I think he can
I don't
explain
believe
those
those.
percentages if you don't believe them.
Well, I don't believe we're gonna get to an answer tonight. That's why I'm asking if we can't review this, let our interim attorney review it, and we can bring it back. I don't think the deadline's gonna hit us before we can do that.
You got any comments? Eric, you got any comments?
You want to speak to that?
Yeah.
The only thing I can add is we are incurring costs already. We've already got the property insured and secured insurance for it. Now in hurricane season. The only, we can cancel the insurance that we have in place. And the credit you're gonna get is upfront, is not directly proportionate because of it being a hurricane season. So just know the sooner we can get this resolved, it just makes more sense. You know, we are insuring it right now.
I totally understand that.
It's ready and already being used by the public, though not technically, being operated by the city.
And liability's covered already, so we're not at that risk.
That's right. But the cost is being borne by us with no income associated with it. So that's all.
Thank you, John. I just ask that we have this reviewed and bring it back as soon as we can. I mean, even if we have to have a special call to do so, I'd be willing to come for that. But I do have some questions I'd like to sit down and go over and discuss.
Well, I wish somebody would call and come to me and ask questions when they have questions.
And that hit last night when we saw the insurance quotes. That's when I really dug into that part of it.
You can do whatever you want to do, the board can do whatever they want to do, but I don't think delaying the process for insurance quotes is going to change the insurance quote itself. It's going to be there. It's the same quote. We are paying less on the garage than the current owner is paying. We would be paying less than the current owner's paying right now in their premium.
For the property right? How's that?
Because they have it insured.
We solicited quotes for months and
they have got insured.
Got quotes.
The percentage is definitely not them paying more than we are once this lease is signed.
No, they're
Right.
paying the full insurance quote right now.
And there's other things I'd like to see in there also, like a once a year inspection on the garage. I know for 7 years it's kind of somewhat covered in other ways, for construction and all of that by the architects and the engineers, but.
We have a detailed operations manual that's provided by the Precast Institute, and very detailed on how things should be inspected and what things can be expected to be maintained.
And I'm definitely not trying to shut the lease down by any means. I just have questions that I'd like to see answered, and I know, I'm gonna be part of the administration the next 4 years that's got to live with it, so I'd like to have those questions answered before I vote to sign on this lease.
All right, you want to make a motion then?
I make a motion, we move to let our interim attorney review and go into discussions to address some of the questions asked and bring it back for the next meeting.
Bobby, would you make an amendment to that we have a special call if possible to help with their timeline?
If needed for a timeline, I would be willing to do a special call.
Got a motion by Mr. Cox. Second by Mr. Wade. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item V, approval request to vacate right-of-way on Sell Street located between 132 Pine Drive and 140 Pine Drive. Planning Commission recommends approval.
I just want to make sure the motion includes Sale Street vacate to be split equal between the adjacent property owners, and to approve the Planning Commission's decision on collapsing both PINs into one parcel.
Combining?
Yeah, that's what.
Combining.
Okay, so what, okay, I get it.
Motion
by
Is that a form of motion or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's what he.
Can you repeat it?
The motion.
Is that the motion, Kevin?
Can you repeat
I
that?
just want to make sure we have the motion accurate as to the PC's recommendation, so Boyd can comment on that.
Yeah, no, includes that Sale Street vacate to be split equally to both properties.
That's the way.
That's standard, yeah.
Standard operating.
Yeah.
Method in something like this.
And then the approval of the Planning Commission's decision on collapsing both PINs into one parcel.
Right, that was their motion, and that's what they incorporated into the their request of the board tonight to combine those two parcels.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Wade, second by Mr. Cox. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Mayor,
She
this-
wants to
I
know.
wanted to know, because I feel this is very important with the ditch. I don't know if the planning commission.
Can
actually
you
went
speak
out-
in the microphone,
I'm sorry.
please?
I don't know if he actually went out there, but my property line has a little flag on it, and it's in the middle of the ditch. And then one side of the ditch that doesn't belong to anyone, but it's a water drainage, and then their little property thing is on their driveway. So part of the ditch is a water catcher. Part of the sales, like I said, I don't know about the sales street, but they say it exists. Part of it's water, part of it's a street. I want to have a covenant between me and the other owners that we do not fill in my ditch. That's the most important part to me, is not filling in the ditch. Because when it rains or a hurricane, everything from my house, their house, I'm at the bottom of the hill, they're at the top of the hill. Everything goes into the ditch. I need a covenant restriction that says, you're not filling this ditch.
We have in our code that the adjacent property owner cannot put any additional water onto your property than it's coming on there right now, so that would not be, an issue. Okay, department reports. City clerk. We approve docket of claims.
Make a motion to approve docket of claims. All expenditures are appropriate and authorized by law. Let's spread the summary on the minutes.
And add the payment to
Okay, and
docket.
then also add payment added to docket of claims for spring basketball security services provided in April and May.
Okay, motion by Mr. Blackman, second by Ms. Burgess. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Anybody have any questions about the sewer adjustments? Is there a motion for approve the
I'll
sewer
make a
adjustments?
motion to approve the sewer adjustments.
Motion by Mr. Blackman.
Second.
Second by Ms. Burgess. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Tree appeal at 1214 Nelson, previously tabled at the 6/3/25 Board of Alderman meeting. Darrell?
Yes, this one, well, went back out as she had built the deck when it was tabled because she was unable to attend. But, she was also gonna try to root cut the tree to save it. I did talk to the arborist last week, he looked at it. If he cuts the roots on the tree, he's gonna be cutting them within 3 foot of the trunk. So the tree's probably gonna die at that point anyway. So, I don't know if the homeowner wants to speak on it.
Jessica Hammer, 1214 Nelson Drive. That's all the information. The roots are growing into my foundation. Mr. Darrell and I spoke. At first, there was no reasonable cause to cut the tree down, but when we removed the deck and found the roots growing into the foundation, I don't want to spend $3,000 to cut this tree down. It's beautiful. I kind of feel like as a responsible homeowner, I don't have a choice at this point. But that is all the information. Thank you, Mr. Darrell.
Okay. We need a motion on this?
Yeah, for removal, to allow her to remove it, this root cut ain't gonna work, so.
I'll make the motion that we allow. Is that yours?
I make a motion that we go ahead and allow her to remove the tree.
Make a motion by Mr. Alderman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pena. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Planning, authorized tax abatement application for 1106 Government Street, PID 611900007.000. This is a tax abatement given back pre-construction of this building by the board. And is Donovan here? They're ready to move forward with it.
I'll be happy to take some more. My name's Donovan Rudd, 317 Drive, here in Ocean Springs. I'm representing the Hotel Mojo at 1106 Government Street. Building received a certificate of occupancy late last week. We were issued business licenses yesterday. They dropped about $3 million in the project overall. It was the old Chandler Outfitter, and this board approved a tax abatement back in, I think, 2022, and now we are ready to get this final approval and send it to Jackson County and have our taxes abated.
A motion? Anybody have any questions for Donovan? Okay, is there a motion to authorize tax abatement application for 1106 Government Street, PID 611-090007.000? This was already decided.
Yeah, this was already good.
4 years ago.
Second.
3 years ago.
Just gotta put it in
Motion. Motion by Ricky, Alderman, second by Ms. Burgess. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. General public comment. Public is invited to address the board for up to 3 minutes each, for a maximum period of 30 minutes. 2 speakers will be allowed per side of each issue. Please identify yourself clearly at the podium before speaking.
Joe Jewell, Ward 3. I want to make a couple comments. This will be the last time I'll be able to address this board, so I wanted to acknowledge the outgoing members. Your constituents voted you into office. Your constituents stood by you and expected your vote. The city decided to move on in a different direction, and I wanted to personally wish y'all the best in those future endeavors, and I mean that sincerely. Contrary, there's no hate in my heart. I don't lose any sleep at night over any comment I said or any comment that was said to me, and I hope the feeling's mutual. I respect the job that y'all did, although I didn't often agree with those decisions that y'all made. I wish y'all the best in the future. Last and final comment that I'll make toward this board is the same comment I made past 2 or 3 meetings, and that's to ask y'all to withdraw from the TIF. I realize that withdrawing from the TIF is not going to stop development on the site or future development on the site, but it certainly will de-incentivize it. It will give a pause so that that property can be properly mitigated. And I'd like one of the Board of Aldermen to consider that. I had at least making the motion. I realize it's a dead anchor, and I realize it's going to go nowhere, but I still want to give y'all one last opportunity. I was going to ask my Alderman Kevin Wade to make that motion, but I think it more appropriate that Mr. Blackman, who finds some of my comments humorous online, and I would request that you make the motion. Maybe Kevin Wade second the motion, and that y'all have a vote on that. No? Well, thank you.
Joe, let me just say something. The TIF gives that property so much more of an advantage to develop properly than a TIF without a TIF. Because if you read the TIF, it says that the property has to be cleaned before they can build, before they can receive any TIF money. It also guarantees that that developer builds something that is not just a box hotel. If that TIF's removed, you can build a Motel 6 there, you can build a Hampton Inn, but I don't think that's what the city of Ocean Springs wants. So the TIF is a strong part of that whole development. So give you a little insight on that.
I understand that. At last meetings, I brought the documents, and I read those 3 or 4 times, and it does support your comments, absolutely. But those requirements in the TIF also are flexible enough for the developer to do whatever he feels is appropriate for mitigation. And like I said before, proposed mitigation could be pour a slab on top of it, which the DQ's already said is sufficient. You just can't, there's so much contamination on the site, you can't have occupancy on the first floor. So I understand that.
Okay. Anybody else?
Good evening again. Night is still young. I'm going to be very brief. key things is I'm thankful to God that we have Henshaw Road Bridge back open, and we didn't have any incidents to go back in and cause the city any harm as far as a financial stand from that. Do we have a report on the Davis Bayou or the Heron Bayou in-house? Have we even requested one from the city, because there are 3 bridges in Ward 5. Those 2 have the same bottom structure of those crystal posts that I call them, that supports it.
Sarah, do we have a report on this?
I don't, but I've requested them.
Okay, that's very important, because that's a very thoroughfare going. It used to take me 5 minutes to get to Walmart. When Henshaw closed down, it takes me between 25 to 35 minutes to get to Walmart. And like I say, one of the key thing is that we do not have any major accident of the bridge collapse, and I'm thankful to God for that. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Mayor and Alderman's Forum, Ms. Burgess.
Just a couple of things. Alan, we've talked about the painting on, the painting on Bristol. I know that the weather's been a challenge, but.
We're gonna try to do it this weekend if we can get some good weather.
Oh, yay. Stephen, the timers on John Gill Park, are those now set correctly? Nice. Thank you very much. Sarah, great job on the sidewalks. Everybody's just chattering about it. Thank you so much. This last meeting, for me, it's been a doozy. It's been a long one. But really quickly, I do want to thank some people. First and foremost, I want to thank God for this opportunity. Definitely would not have been able to do this without him. The residents of Ward 1, thank you. I've been proud to be your alderman. I've thoroughly enjoyed serving you in the city. I'm grateful for all the encounters and connections. I obviously want to thank all the directors. I mean, you guys are awesome. It's been all the City Hall employees. You guys have tolerated my endless questions, my endless spreadsheets, and you've done it like a champ. I'm very proud of everything that we've been able to accomplish in Ward 1 in the past 4 years in a very short amount of time. So you guys are awesome. Board of Aldermen, my brothers from other mothers. I really appreciated all the guidance and the help. It's been great serving alongside you. We've done a lot of good things in the city, and I've been very pleased to be and honored to be a part of all of that. Mayor Holloway, thank you for your support. Thank you for all the hard work that you did in Jackson. Without it, Ward 1 would not be getting the things addressed that have long been needed to get addressed, and so that does not go unnoticed. My family, my friends, especially my husband, my son, my mom. I know the last 6 months have not been easy, but they have been champs, and I appreciate them and love them very much. And overall, I look forward to continuing to serve this community in a multitude of ways, and I look forward to seeing what other opportunities God's going to put in my path. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I only have one thing, Alan. They have some pretty big paving patches that have to be done. Like Russell, that's a super long one. Who's doing that?
We're gonna have that contracted out, probably either gonna be PJ or either Graham.
And then the one in front of Winn-Dixie.
That's probably gonna be Graham.
The one on the corner of Jackson.
One corner of Jackson's gonna be concrete, that's gonna be Delta.
How long before they do that? Is something gonna be done in the next couple weeks?
She don't know nothing about Jackson.
It's been
about a month.
No, I didn't know that it needed to be concrete. That's their work. They need to contract with Delta to do.
I really like to see that done, before the 30th. I don't know if that's possible.
I can talk to them and see where they're at on sidewalks, if they can work it in there.
I mean, I'm talking about all of it, the paving part, because we've had some pretty big breaks in Ward 2 that's left some streets pretty.
Graham's supposed to try to do Russell next week.
Okay.
Putting bags in.
All right. And then other than that, I just want to tell the board thank you for, it's been great for the last 8 years. The department managers taking my emails at 4 o'clock in the morning, and Alan getting my calls at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You know.
Miss that.
I appreciate y'all.
That little dip on the back door needs to be patched. Can we get that taken care of? Thank you.
Well, I need to wake up now. It's not over. I second what Jennifer and Ricky just said. It's been a great 8 years. And I appreciate the folks in Ward 4 that have supported me, and I hope I've done a little bit of good for them. June the 30th will be a day of joy and happiness for me. Thank you.
I've enjoyed serving with everybody up here, and I commend you for what you did, stepping up to run, all of you. And, we'll move forward. I think we got good things coming, but you'll all be missed. So that's all I need to say.
All right, I've got a motion for Parks and Rec. I need to make a motion to hire Stephen Espinoza for the full-time building maintenance position, pending all pre-employment requirements and a 1-year probationary period with a starting pay of step 2, $16.48 per hour.
Second.
By Mr. EMP, second by Ms. Burgess, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And I gotta add my voice, I've been 12 years. I want to thank my wife and daughter because they put up with a lot of absences from me. And my daughter, I think she's, I told her I'm going to be home a lot more. She was like, she's got my sense of humor. She's, over these 12 years, I've had a unique opportunity. Bobby has too, I guess. 3 administrations, 3 different mayors, 3 totally different personalities. It has been interesting over these 12 years, to say the least. You couldn't get 3 more diverse personalities in our mayors than we've had in these last 3 administrations. But I appreciate it. We've gotten a lot done in Ward 6. Which I saw in the agenda tonight, we had the information about Dina Road. Hopefully it moves forward soon with MDOT's approval. They're going to incorporate the drainage from the Highway 90 expansion project into that Dina Road project. Once the MOU is complete and the design adjusted, they'll be able to go out for bids. Riley Road under design. I'm excited about still what's to come for Ward 6. Those are going to be some big positive changes, hopefully in the near future. I appreciate everyone's support. I've enjoyed working with you guys. Thanks, Kenny, for your leadership these last 4 years. And, Ocean Springs is a city I grew up in and loved. I've seen a lot of changes over the years. Things change. That's inevitable. I think the changes have been for the positive. And I looking forward to see where Ocean Springs goes in the future. That's all I've got, Mayor.
Mayor, I just want to say, following up on all this, I thoroughly enjoyed serving with each and every one of you. I know we've had our ups and downs, but like you said, we all are here for the citizens of Ocean Springs and the city, and we all want to see it do better. Some of you serve 4, some of you serve 8, some of you serve 12, and every day you put in is tough. These decisions don't come lightly, and I commend each and every one of y'all for what you have done, and I have enjoyed serving with you.
Okay. Although I messed up my string of meetings that didn't go beyond 2 hours. Anyway, I think looking back on the 4 years we've had together, I revert back to a conversation I had with somebody, and I know you probably heard me say this before. A gentleman came to my house. He said, "Kenny, the capital's coming to Ocean Springs." He said, "There's nothing we can do about it. All we can do is try to manage it. We can sit back and just let it happen, or we can try to manage it. And I think that's what we've done. We've tried to manage it. And I think, I know we are leaving this city today better than we picked it up 4 years ago. Financially, growth-wise, infrastructure, we've spent, 60-something $million in the past 4 years on various projects, and that's unprecedented, for any, I kid Fofo, all the time. I said, Fofo, if you need me as a consultant, you should have had me as a consultant for 4 years while you were going up there getting nothing out of Jackson. I was coming home with $12-15 million every year. Just kind of joking with him. But the whole Gulf Coast is growing. It's our turn to shine the state. We've got 15% of the population and like 25% of the revenue comes from this part of the state of Mississippi, and it's showing from Bay St. Louis all the way to Gaucher. I mean to Moss Point. Billy Knight's got some growth over there that he's really doing some good things and gonna help that city quite a bit and help Jackson County. So I guess the note is here, or the point is, keep the ball moving, keep the growth going, smart growth. We say that kind of tongue in cheek, and hopefully we'll be better off in 4 years from now than we are now. That's the goal. It's been a tough 2 years. The misinformation out there is atrocious, and you just don't have time to fight it all the time. It's just wearing you down, and the amount of public records requests and all this stuff that comes into this building. People looking for the smoking gun. Well, there's no smoking gun. We're doing a job here, and we're doing it the right way. And the wear and tear on the staff. Patty's taking abuse she should have never taken. This whole group at City Hall is a family. We're all a family, and that's so it hurts when the misinformation is out there. It is targeted at people we care for. Anyway, it's a tough job. Our city operates on a very limited number of people. Our millage is the lowest on the coast, probably one of the lowest in the state, and what this city does with that amount of money is commendable. And without our strong sales tax and 2% tax, we would never be able to operate this city the way it's been operating the last 4 to 6 years. So anyway, with that, enjoyed everybody. Great friendships were made, and I'll take a motion to adjourn until 6 p.m.
Don't we have executive session?
What do we have executive session for?
So it's planning department personnel.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Okay. Yep. Okay, so I need a motion to go into closed session. Discuss the necessity to go into executive session. Motion by Mr. Cox, second by Mr. Wade. All in favor? Okay.
Yeah, you wait here a minute. Just a minute though, but you're fixing to go around back. Okay. Motion made by Mike Impey, seconded by Kevin Wade to stay in executive session for discussion from the planning department personnel, litigation with Sarah Creer, and litigation with Rosenberg. Will Norman will leave the room before they discuss litigation with Rosenberg because Mr. Harris is back there. So, yes, just Mindy. Yeah, I don't even know. I guess Wade, but they.
And
Yeah.
probably Stephen because of the